All right. Hey, everybody. Season 8 is imminent. So imminent. 36-ish hours, something like that. Maybe 37, something like that.
Who's counting anyway?
I think a lot of people are counting. I think the answer is everyone. Everyone is counting. Everyone is counting.
All
Yes.
14 fans of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. The least popular show of all time is ending. So, okay, we sound good. Everybody, yeah, looking and sounding good. So I hope we look extra good, not because we're two handsome gentlemen, but because we have this nice new camera. And it makes us actually, maybe it makes us look worse. It reveals our flaws.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we want to go back to the old camera. Especially considering we're talking about the Game of Thrones cast, who are just such a fine-looking group of people, and they're better actors than we are too. Oh well, that's why we're analyzing. That's not a word.
It is now.
It is now. That's right. You're right. It is real. Yeah, the beard is real. I see lots of comments. We do have real beards. That's true. We may not be actors, but our beards are real. So, on a scale of ice to fire, how hype are you?
Water.
Steam. Yes, very good. I see a super chat from Chicxulub. No, now it ends. Yes, indeed. No, now it ends. Well, not for 6 more weeks, but but that is what we're faced with. It's bittersweet, isn't it? We have the beginning of the end, and that's always kind of a difficult thing to reckon with as a fan. You know, the climax is often such an interesting part. We've built up so much to get to this point, but also it means we're almost done. So how do you deal with that as a fan?
Partly, it's just not gonna really be done. There's just so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, think about how much we've talked about this for the past year with no new episodes. You know what I mean? Like, you think everyone's gonna be done talking about it 6 weeks from now? Never mind books and all the material of the whole world and spin-offs approaching and so on. So obviously it's not like I'm happy about this, but I wouldn't want it to drag on too long either.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, you know.
And it's been, like you said, since it's been more than a year since the last season, one thing that we all maybe miss is the camaraderie of going through it week to week and being, getting to talk about it with our friends and family and all that. And I'm really looking forward to that as well. So what we have prepared for today, hey everybody, welcome back to our weekly live streams during the season. This will be our normal time, Saturday at 2:00. This first one will be a little different because we usually are going to work off of the trailer to decide and determine and guess what's coming next. In this case, we already reviewed the trailer, and the trailer was out weeks ago. But there's a lot we didn't discuss. We talked about a lot of main characters. We talked about some plots. But there's several characters we didn't talk about, and we didn't really focus on the first episode. We talked about the season as a whole. Well, the season as a whole focused more on what was in the trailer, which we believe was more of the earlier episodes in the season, but we don't know that for sure. Certainly, that's a normal pattern for them to have, so it's a reasonable guess, but we'll have to wait and see just how much that actually plays out. Let me give a couple of quick shout-outs. Ashay, of course, is running production, as always. And she put in a lot of effort this week figuring out this new webcam, in addition to figuring out some other new gear that we have not put into play just yet. One thing at a time, new camera first. But also we have some new microphones, a new whole audio setup that we're excited to debut. It should make us sound nicer.
Make a mention of the fact that with our new mixer, we're experiencing a hissing and we need more power.
Ah.
It has input for us.
We also could use a little advice. We have a new mixer that we're having a little power/hissing issue with. So anyone out there with expertise in recording and studio mixers and things like that, you might earn yourself a very hearty and thankful shout out from us if you can help us out with that. So
we also got a new spaceship. We're having trouble with the warp drive, so if anyone can...
Yeah, if you have antimatter for us, we could really use antimatter. Also, our rail guns aren't working. So, yeah, a little expense.
Trying to not be violent anyway.
They're purely for defense. Okay, so let me give a few other thanks. Of course, thanks to all of you who have made it live to watch, but also thanks to you who are catching this after the fact, either the replay on YouTube, or the podcast version, which is always going to be up as quick as possible once these live streams run. We're going to be doing 3 live streams a week during the season. Saturdays at 2 Eastern, Mondays at 7, and Wednesdays at 7, also Eastern Standard Time. Mondays, of course, are our show-only review, initial reactions, and discussion of what we just saw. Saturdays are a discussion of what's next, and Wednesday is a discussion we're generally going to have a rotating group of guests, but we're also going to have Lady Gwyn from Radio Westeros. Ashea will be part of it regularly as well. And we will be discussing Impact for the books, as we've been doing since, I believe, Season 4. So, not a whole lot different there. So we'll kind of keep to our pattern as it has developed over the seasons, and we look forward to doing that. So let's give some shout-outs to some patrons who have made the show possible over the long run, including Jeff Gnarly the Long Snapper, History of Westeros' First Sword, and Talanis the Talon, King of Gagassos, Rider of Telarius, a red dragon with scales, horns, and talons of midnight black, and Robert IV of House Ardeacor, Burned King of Blazewater Bay, Rider of Atraxis, a black dragon with bioluminescent spots like smoldering embers and a banded blue tail. What did he call it? LML dubbed him the Shade of the Evening Dragon, which is really cool. I like that. That's a great reference. All right. Let's get going. I think, like I said, a lot of these characters we sort of discussed already. We kind of discussed Jaime's. We basically did a whole episode with Joanna Robinson discussing Jaime Goes North. So we're not going to talk a whole lot about Jaime. We're going to have to talk a little bit about him. And I don't think we want to talk too much about some of the main characters that we've already discussed, but there's a lot of interactions we didn't discuss, and there's a lot of some of the more not central characters that we didn't discuss a whole lot. So that's going to be our focus, at least for the early part of this episode. And Sean, you did a rewatch.
Yeah, I was going to say, since we did the last podcast with, I forgot, we did one with Drinks and Nose.
Yes.
Was that after the trailer or before the trailer?
I believe that was before. I think it was before.
Yeah.
But I don't remember for sure. I think it was before. It's all a blur.
Anyway, since the last broadcast we did, I've watched everything all over again. Now, it's amazing. Already seen every episode. Some episodes I've seen more than others, but I've seen every episode at least 5 times.
Yeah.
And I have pages of notes and hours of discussion on all of them, and still picking up new things. So I unfortunately I didn't get to work it into the document here, but as it comes up, I'll work in observations that I made. And some of them I tell you, I realized going through the rewatch, I really need to pay attention when Melisandre comes on screen, when Bran comes on screen, when Jojen comes on screen, characters that have visions of the future, prophetic characters, and there are certain things that some of them said that obviously that's the whole thing about prophecies, right? They're kind of vague. It's easy to misinterpret them, but there's still some things can be eliminated or narrowed down at least. Some of the things that some of the characters say kind of like zero in on what might be happening,
Definitely.
Also, I want to say real quick, I have a friend who was waiting till the last season came out to watch any of it. So
really?
He timed it, Mark. Timed watching all the old episodes to the new season coming out. And he's a Magic player, by the way. If they're new Magic player, sound off if you're a Magic player. I wonder if it's like 2
MTG,
people or like
Magic
everybody. Yeah. Anyway, he nicknamed Melisandre Mono Red. And that's kind of sticking in my mind as a nickname for her. But
that makes sense. Ghost would be mono white. The White Walkers are mono white. Is that
Yeah.
right? I don't know. They're white blue, maybe. So we'll start off talking about some things that I think kind of have to happen in this first episode, and we can kind of speculate on maybe what else is going to be there. Of course, there's going to be a lot of reunitings and meetings and people who have heard about each other and maybe previously had problems with each other that kind of have to, by necessity, set that aside because there's a much bigger problem coming. It's really hard to foresee someone like Jaime getting into a legitimate, violent disagreement with anyone, even though he pushed Bran out a window and he's been the enemy of so many of them for so long. Partly because the leaders, people like Bran and especially Jon, are very adamant that nothing matters but fighting the White Walkers. Like past grievances, none of that matters. And I don't think Bran doesn't really consider himself Bran anymore. So we'll start there, even though we talked about Jaime's from, do you foresee any serious issues with Jaime's arrival?
Depends on what you mean by serious.
Yeah.
You know,
Like they can't get past.
Last more than an episode, maybe that could be defined as serious.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Possibly. I think that even if he gets up there will certainly be some people who are happy to see him and some people who are not.
Yeah.
They'll argue back and forth about it, and in the end, they'll accept him. That's kind of what I expect.
I think that makes sense.
However,
we'll certainly vouch for him.
However, just because they accept him doesn't mean, okay, that's it, everyth's fine and happy.
You know, maybe some side-eyeing or something.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
We've already seen that exact thing happen in other scenarios. But one thought that I considered was that maybe there would be a trial by combat. Maybe he'll show up and these people demand justice, and other people like, no, he's actually on our side.
That's a good
point.
point.
Trial. But the thing is, that can't happen because Tom and Bandit. Remember?
Yeah, there are definitely going to everyone respects Tom as decrees.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to consider Jaime, and but perhaps more what we should be considering, since we've discussed Jaime, and because he's lesser of importance, as Daenerys. Daenerys is the one whose arrival I think is not necessarily going to cause people to want to kill her, but it's quite a shift in power, because the Northerners were very adamant that Jon is the one they picked. Jon should be there to lead them, and he's returning with, hey, I bent the knee to Daenerys.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I'm sleeping with her. So that's going to come up too. But let's just focus on the power part. So we've got a lot of different people who have to react to Dany. Not just Jon, and not just Tyrion figuring out that they're together now, which causes him some issues. But we have Sansa, we have Arya, we have Bran, and we have other characters who are of lesser importance, but their opinions are going to matter. Bronzion Royce was like, do not do this. Remember who her father was. He was like, he is not pro Dany at all. He may change his mind. The Glover, Lord Glover, he's one of the characters that gets speaking lines semi-regularly in these sort of forum situations. He's going to be someone that may have something to say. Lyanna Mormont may have something to say about all. I don't even have strong guesses as to what most of their reactions will be, but I do think their reactions will matter. It's something that's going to have to happen. Something's going to have to play out. They have to get over the fact that Dany's now kind of in charge.
I think they'll mostly be positive. I think that it'll be like 5-to-1 ratio. You know what I mean? There'll be 2 or 3 of the 5 who maybe keep quiet about it. But I think the people who speak up against it are just going to get shut down. They're just going to get shut down right away.
That makes
Even
sense.
people who maybe want to be upset against it, in theory, Lyanna will still love that it's a woman coming in here.
I agree. And I think Arya
will love that the dragons are so cool.
I think Arya's going to really like Dany. From a book reader perspective, Arya's loves Nymeria, right? I mean, that's not just a book reader perspective. That's a show perspective. Arya named her wolf Nymeria because she liked Nymeria, the warrior princess.
Yeah.
Queen of Dorne, or Princess of Dorne. And Dany has a lot in common with Nymeria. So I really think that's one of the most slam dunks. Like, Arya is gonna like Dany.
I also
not 100%, but I feel confident.
I also want to give Dany some credit. I think that she will say the right things. I think that her ambition level has gone down a notch.
Yes.
She's seen the White Walkers.
Good point.
In general, has learned, in the rewatch, I want to give her some credit for several moments, kind of like questioning herself, recognizing that she stomps in, I'm in charge here, and then realizes, like, what makes me think I'm in charge here? No one of these people are questioning me, I think it'll be similar here. She knows she needs to sell herself. Even if she holds her line, I think she still knows in private when she has discussions with people, like, I need to actually succeed. I need to understand what I'm doing. I need help.
It's similar to Stannis, realizing that if he wants to be king, he needs to prove that he's worth it, not just be like, oh, it's mine. I'm owed this. When he decided to fight for the realm instead of to try to take the throne, it was how did he say it? I wanted to take the throne to claim my rights. It's like, I'm going to claim my rights to take the throne. Like, reversing the logic behind it, saying, like, I should prove that I'm worthy, not that I'm deserving, And Dany's kind of doing the same thing in a different way, but it's very similar how she's doing it. She's like, first she's going for the throne, then she's like, actually, I'm going to go north.
Yeah.
And fight this threat. And, Stannis didn't have the same means.
Stannis lost his child doing it.
Yes, he
Dany's
did.
lost her child.
That's very true. So I think there's a lot of interesting little parallels there. We have a Hail Satan super chat from Dark Mother. Thank you, Dark Mother. Very appropriate. Now, what about so what about, I think Bran, another one. I think a lot of people kind of think maybe Sansa will react somewhat negatively to Dany. I think that's overblown a little bit. I think the show maybe is showing a little of that possible conflict, but I don't really think it's going to go anywhere. Like you, I think that Sansa isn't going to be terribly threatened by this because it's so important and she recognizes this threat. Jon has made it so important, and she doesn't think that necessarily is going to assume that Dany is going to come in here and be all authoritative. They're going to have some conversations. I think that that's maybe overblown. Also, I think that both Bran and Arya probably are going to be supportive of Dany, and that might help Sansa if she's even has a problem with it in the first place, which is not a sure thing. Her family, she'll be the only one in her family that maybe doesn't see eye to eye, and that might help bring her back over. How do you see Sansa's reaction to Dany going?
I think similarly, she'll be more okay with it than we might expect. Again, I think she'll have this instinct to not want it. But, for example, I think one thing that might lead us to believe that she won't like it is because there seemed to be a sort of a power struggle last season, right?
Yeah.
Arya and Sansa were kind of pitched against each other. It seemed like Littlefinger was trying to pit Sansa versus Jon. But I really think that was kind of, I don't know, red herring-ish. You know, there was nothing really between Arya and Sansa. Littlefinger's dead. I think, especially when we see the dragons, that Jon has been so committed to the idea that none of this other stuff matters. Honor, lords, Iron Throne. Sansa might not understand or believe that yet, but Dany does. And when she shows up with that mentality, it's harder for Sansa to feel like her power is being threatened or the Starks are being threatened or anything like that. When Dany's mission is not to, like, take over Winterfell or take over the Seven Kingdoms, it's to beat the Night King.
Yeah.
Now, assuming that is the line that Dany takes, which I expect. So.
And another thing is that, yes, she may have some of the standard reactions, like, that's the family that killed, my uncle, Brandon, and my grandfather, Rickard, and all that. But on the other hand, there's plenty of other things to balance it out that we've already explained. And on top of that, Sansa is adamant that Cersei is a huge, huge threat. And if Dany is an ally in the fight against Cersei, that's a very big plus in her favor as far as Sansa's opinion goes. So I think that's something that I think has been left out of discussion a lot, is that Sansa is very much anti-Cersei and Dany is anti-Cersei, and that's some very good common ground they have.
Two points to that. One is that it also, there might be another side to that. Let me see if I can keep the 2 points in my head here. That she may, similar to Cersei, look at it from another angle. Since, Jon, Dany, other characters, they're serious about the understanding of this threat because they've seen it. I've seen it. I know. You have to see it to know.
Yeah, not everybody else has, yeah.
Sansa might not be there.
It's true.
When Cersei saw it, then she knew. She was really scared. She understood it is a real threat. However, Cersei still has this long game idea in her mind. Okay, fine, the threat's real.
Fight it. Yeah.
You guys go fight that real threat. I won't necessarily fight you in the meantime, but I'm still not leaving King's Landing, right? Sansa might still have that mentality of, okay, fine, sure, Jon, Dany, go fight the Night King, but Cersei is still a threat. I'm still worried about other things, So she might not actively go against everyone, but she might not be wholly bought in either.
Yeah.
Until she sees it. Whether or not she does or when she does, I'm not sure. But, oh shoot, I have a thought.
A real wild card, I've got a point. A real wild card here is Tyrion. Sansa's reaction to Tyrion being on Team Dany could either help smooth things over or be like, that's Cersei's brother, but she knows they're not together anymore. But I don't, that's still a room for her to be like side-eye that whole situation, like, yeah, but that's a Lannister right there with her, I think she's probably gonna see things from a better perspective than that. That's a little short-sighted.
I think she'll bring it up, but it's so easy to defend against.
Yeah,
one, she knows Tyrion is fundamentally good in the first place, and if she doesn't know, she'll find out he killed his own father. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's defense against that attack that might come,
I see a comment from Big E who says, both Sansa and Dany have a lot in common. Both were married twice, both were tortured and raped and used as political pawns. Both their parents were killed by Lannisters. Okay, very good point there. Very good point. There is more common ground than maybe we first realized they had, and they're a similar age too. So that's that's helpful a little bit. So I could see, I could see why it's tricky to see. There's a lot of possible ways. We don't know how the writers are going to write it, but you could see how there's a lot of things on both sides for how Sansa might react. But I agree that I think it'll be fine. It's not going to be a major divisive problem for them going forward.
So I remember the other angle I had for how Sansa might react to things is that she doesn't actually have some particular ambition. She doesn't think she's owed the throne or the North or anything.
You mean Sansa?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't think that she will feel as much of a threat, even if the other lords think Sansa should be Queen of the North.
Yeah.
And they all want to support her and she wants to go after Diana. I mean, that'll be something she realizes she has to deal with. She knows she needs to say things the right way and address different people's concerns or whatever. But she doesn't have some personal expectation to be king that Dany is a threat to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Okay, let's see. Any other thoughts on Sansa and Dany? So let's talk about Bran and Dany. That one's a little harder to figure, but I think it's maybe the details, the nuance are harder to figure, but I think the bottom line maybe not that hard to figure out. Bran is very focused on Night King, Night King, Night King, and those dragons gotta seem like, despite the fact that one of them is now fighting for the other side, they seem like very much an ally. And the Unsullied, there's no two bones about that. Those are helpful. That's a huge helpful thing. An army that can help fight the undead, like a really good army, a really disciplined, tough army like that. There's no doubt that that's helpful. But who knows what he's going to see coming, how he might see something wrong with something else, or big magic. Always hard to predict, right?
Yeah. So let me go ahead and throw one thing out here now.
Sure.
There's a moment when Sam and Gilly were trying to get south of the wall, when Bran and company were trying to get north of the wall.
Yeah.
They cross paths. Takes a moment for Sam to convince Bran who he is, and he's like, look, I love your brother. I'll do anything to help you. And Bran's like, okay, cool. Help us go north. And Sam's like, anything but that. And he can't believe that they want to go north. And Jojen tells him, you've seen the army. Sam's like, how do you know that I've seen the army of the dead? And he says, the Night's Watch can't stop them. The kings and armies of Westeros can't stop them. So, all right, that opens up the potential to a queen of Westeros can stop them. It doesn't have to be a king. Now, we might start to get into whether or not Dany should be the queen, and constantly we've had multiple kings at once who say...
Maybe it means Cersei can stop them.
It does. And she would have an army that's not of Westeros if she has the Golden Company. She legitimately could. Sansa could
Dany
stop
has
them.
Dothraki and all that.
Dany has Dothraki. So it is a legit possibility. And I bring this up because Jojen told this to Bran. And so Bran believes what Jojen says. Bran might have seen it himself. Even if it's not actually Dany and he's misinterpreting things, much like Melisandre is, and it really is Cersei, one or the other, it seems to me like Bran will welcome Dany and these non-Westerosi armies. So.
Yeah, good point. So that's actually another good one that we should talk about. Another reuniting Bran and Sam, right? Like they met at the Night Fort and had their little kind of solo interaction with Mira and Jojen and Gilly, and the baby was there, and Summer was there at the time. But now
they've already been reunited. They've
they
already talked. Yeah.
Well, we haven't. Oh, yeah, you're right. They have already talked, but they haven't talked about Jon. That's more what I wanted to get into. Well, they haven't talked about Jon and basically several other things that they can confer over. He's got his books. Bran has the prophecies and memories and everything, and can look into the weirwood. So that's another one that's pretty hard to predict, but at least we can kind of narrow it down to something to do with endgame stuff, something to do with the White Walkers and maybe the nature, what they're after, things like that. Do you have any thoughts on that general topic?
I don't know quite how to express this, but I think that Sam is going to be a sort of librarian for Bran. Does that make sense?
Librarian?
Yeah. Imagine someone from medieval times was transported to the Library of Congress 2019 and was told, hey, the cure to the plague is in here. Whenever you find it, you can go back in time and cure the plague. How you wouldn't know where to start? You don't know what a library is. You don't know. There's all these. There's so much information, so many books. You wouldn't know where. You theoretically have access to all this information, right?
Yeah.
Bran said at one point, "I remember everything." He seems to have access to all knowledge, but he doesn't have the ability to process it. He doesn't know where to look.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know how things relate to each other. And I think Sam will be the guide for that. Sam will be the one to look at this moment in time, look at the history of this character.
He's like the milestone guy. He's like, this is what you should be looking. Because Bran can see anything, but where does he know to start? So maybe Bran's like, Sam is like the anchor or the lens to be like, this is where you should be focusing.
And so far, Bran,
the conductor,
as he's going through this process of transforming to Blood Raven, he's been looking at his things that matter to him personally. Does that make sense?
Right.
But he's got to get away from that.
Yeah. The conclusion being they don't matter to him personally.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about, he didn't care about Littlefinger that much, except for his getting resolved. He's probably not going to care about Jaime pushing him out a window.
Right.
Like
exactly.
it's strange to call that petty, but it kind of is.
In the big picture. Yeah.
It kind of is. Yeah. Let's see. We got super chat from Jill Wright. She says she sent it via PayPal. PayPal. Oh man, that's a good one. She says this is a test of super chatting via direct PayPal donation. Please read out loud. Well, there you go. Even though I didn't read it out loud very well, I did read it out loud. We have another one from Niels Rain. Bran will see that Jon and Dany's son will be evil. Whoa, that would be difficult to handle. Like, what would they do? Like, what do they do about that? They're not going to just, let's just kill the kid. No, we can't just, or can you? I don't know. That's rough. Hopefully that doesn't actually happen. Then we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so another one, another kind of reuniting situation. Maybe not. It is reuniting, although it's not a surprise. Jon finds out when he's at Dragonstone, trying to bring Dany into the cause. A letter comes saying that Arya and Bran both have arrived at Winterfell, and they're like, "Why aren't you happy?" Because he's like, "Well, this news comes with also the news that the Army of the Dead's on the march. So it's not great news. Yes, I'm happy my sister and brother are alive, but to find out they're alive, but in the direct path of the Army of the Dead, isn't really great news either. So he gets it's another good opportunity for him to brood, and where we get that scene of Tyrion saying, "Man, I came out here to brood, but you brood better than I do. You make me feel like a failure at being a brooder." Or whatever that line was. Really funny. I love that.
He said, "You make me feel like I'm failing at brooding over failing."
yeah, which is so good. It's so good because Jon's brooding is it's true. You cannot out-brood Kit Harington. Like, you got to be like, I don't know. You got to be like, what's his name? Neo.
From The Matrix?
Keanu Reeves. Yeah, he's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that can brood at Kit Harington's level.
God, one time, let Jon go, "Whoa."
Yeah, at the end, like the last line of the entire show. Super chat from Dark Mother. The Sam/Bran theory is effing brilliant. Well, thank you very much. So let's see. So there's this other. So Jon knows that Bran and Sam are there, but he hasn't. I mean, it's not Sam. Bran and Arya are there, but he hasn't actually had this moment of hugging them and getting having that go down. And people have been waiting for the Arya-Jon reuniting forever. Because, Bran and Jon liked each other, but Arya and Sam, I cannot get these names right. Arya and Jon had a special relationship. They were the closest of amongst their family from each other.
Not only did they have a particularly close bond, but Bran doesn't really have any bond of any kind anymore. We've already seen it be awkward. Each reunion with him has been maybe even a little more awkward each time. I don't expect it to be different with Jon, except that maybe Jon might be a little quicker to accept this weirdness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He even if he's not happy about it or doesn't understand it, A, he's seen all kinds of other crazy things.
Yeah.
And B, he has a bigger concern, even than his own brother. In the same way, we're just saying it might seem some of these things that the idea that Bran wouldn't care about someone trying to kill him seems crazy, but when you consider that someone's trying to kill all of everyone, maybe it's a little less important, and Jon understands that,
Yeah. So It's not a long-waited reuniting, but Jon and Sam reuniting is pretty meaningful too.
True.
That's pretty. That's pretty.
It has
significant.
been a long time actually
Yeah.
since they've been together,
and it's going to be bittersweet because the same thing. Jon is like, oh, I get to see them, but they're in great danger, and likewise, Bran and Sam are like, we got to break this news about his parentage to Jon. Like, it's going to be great to see him, but we got news for him.
They don't even know how tough the news is going to be.
They don't know he's hooked up
right?
with Dany. Oh, yeah, it's such a mess. They're going to be like, well, this is going to be hard to tell him. And then they're going to see him arrive and, like, be touching Dany and be like, oh, crap, this is going to be harder than we thought.
So here's another thing I want to bring up. And I've been, like, trying to decide when or how to bring up this point because I feel like it's like a new big thought for me to be considering.
Okay.
A lot of my thoughts on, and also because it's a little out of context right now, we're kind of talking about this season and we're kind of running through characters, but this is more of we're talking about this episode. We're trying to think about episode 1. But I have a new thought that makes me reevaluate how the season is going to go.
Okay.
A lot of my thoughts, and I think many people's thoughts, has been based on Martin telling us, and it kind of makes sense, that it's going to be bittersweet. Like, even if Martin didn't say that specifically, I don't think anyone expects like it to be total tragedy where everyone dies, or total happy ending where everyone's right.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's almost impossible to be a happy ending because we have so many characters opposed to each other, you know. But like, even if no one dies in battle, and the characters we generally think of as heroes win, and generally think of as villains, if all that happens, no one expects that, right?
Yeah.
But for it to be bittersweet, it doesn't mean that good guys have to die, right?
Right.
There are ways for it to be bittersweet
Trauma.
other than the good guys dying, right?
Yes.
So, for example, one thing that might happen is that neither Jon or Dany die, but they also don't live happily ever after.
Yeah.
They don't
I
necessarily
agree.
have a kid and go rule together. What could happen, maybe what I'm starting to think is likely, Jon goes back to the Wall.
A major, I could see that.
Dany is queen. Jon goes to the Wall. They love each other, but they have to make these personal sacrifices for what's good for the realm. Dany marries someone else just because they need the family allegiance. You can go on about who that might be, but someone she doesn't love and it doesn't love her. Almost like how when Tyrion had to marry Sansa, it was like a punishment for both of them.
Yeah.
Maybe Tyrion has to marry Dany. And the houses unite, even though they don't love each other, you know.
Yeah.
And Jon, who loves Dany, has to go to the Wall and can never have a relationship with anyone.
And
that would be bittersweet without them dying.
You wonder if they can, can they rebuild the Wall? I wonder.
I think that's what Jon will do. He'll go back to the Wall and rebuild
Try
it.
to rebuild
And part of why he'll do that is because I don't think the Night King is going to die. I think the Night King's still
If
going to be out there, and they have to maintain the Wall to protect the realm.
Okay, I could see that being possible. I wonder if, maybe that could be, like you said, there's resolution or partial resolution, but it's not complete, and thus, if the threat remains, you can't rest.
Yeah.
That makes some sense. Speaking of bittersweet, what strange beverage are you drinking today?
Oh, let's see. This is, I might have gone too far. Let me tell you. No. It's a new naked drink. It's watermelon pomegranate mixed with a sparkling ice that was pineapple coconut mixed with Dr. Pepper. And I should have mixed it with Mountain Dew because it's so citrusy. So it's a little odd, even for my taste. I'm like, I don't know about this one.
Up from Winterfell Super Chat says, "Can Dany marry Sansa, please?" Yes, I'm all for that. Especially if we... No, I won't say that. I was going to say, especially if we get a betting scene, but no. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Laws of Westeros.
Yeah, that's the law. They have to do that. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. So one of the extensions here, as we just said, one of the things that's going to kind of feels like it has to come up. Let's focus a little bit on the arc of this episode for a minute and see where that leaves us. All these reuniting / meetings. It's a big part of this episode. Dany's army, Dany's dragons, Jon, everybody converging on Winterfell. Maybe Jaime showing up. By the way, something we discussed just before this episode, I think there's a good chance that Jaime doesn't show up till episode 2 because there's so many meetings and discussions and people reacting to each other that have to, do that. And
they haven't even lifted Tommen's ban on trial by combat yet, so...
Exactly. So they really need to... There's so many of these things I could see them sort of postponing Jaime's arrival to deal with that a little bit separately. On the other hand, they might want to just rush through that and get it all out of the way to focus on the battles, which is something they tend to do a little bit. So with that in mind, I think that some of these other things are going to have to be taken care of fairly quickly. For example, Jon's parentage reveal. We talked about how that's going to be a thing that Bran and Sam uncomfortably have to tell Jon, and more uncomfortably once they realize the Dany situation. But the extension of that is once it's revealed, what happens? Well, for one thing, the North has to have a similar reaction, or not similar reaction, but they have to go through this process of reacting. Meaning, they just named this guy king. He bent the knee to a Targaryen, and he is a Targaryen. And he's not the son of Ned Stark, although he is the son of a Stark. So that's just like, whoa. To a lot of people, it could be a wide range of reactions. Anywhere from, I don't care. He's proved himself a great leader. I don't care who his father was. He's still Stark blood, whatever. To, oh my God, this undermines everything. It's a huge range of possibilities there, I think.
Again, I didn't think of this till just now, but in context of what I was saying before, maybe it happens right then. Maybe in the face of this, Jon's like, I'm just going to go back to the wall. Sansa, Queen of Winterfell.
Well, presumably after they defeat the threat. He's not going to leave the episode, in episode
well, he might not leave Winterfell to the wall, but he may make the decision
that's what he's
that I'm not going to try to be Lord of Winterfell. It's
Okay.
not correct for me to do it. Bran neither. People are like, well, then it should be Bran. Bran's like, what are you talking about? I'm Blood Raven. No. All right, Sansa it is.
What if he? But is like I agree that Jon isn't going to be like, oh, I'm technically first in line to the throne. That's my duty. I don't know. I don't think he wants it.
No,
but how
not
he
at all.
definitely
That's part
not.
of why I don't think he will be. Yeah.
No, yeah, he's not going to seek it, but it may seek him if people put it on him.
Well, that's why I think he might go back to the wall. That's
To
that
remove
you can't
himself.
put it on me. Like if he believes it should be Dany, then it makes it so that no one can say it should be him.
And there's a wonderful parallel for that. Maester Aemon.
Exactly.
Yes. That's great. That's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. There's no guarantee that because it fits so well, that's how it's going to play out. But it's a wonderful theory because it checks off all these boxes.
Yep.
I guess some problems with that could be like, man, maybe the wall is completely gone. They can't. Or if they do feel like the Night King is defeated, then they wouldn't necessarily feel like it's necessary to have that. Then maybe Jon would be like, well, I joined the King's Guard or something to take himself out of it. I don't know. There are other ways besides the wall to remove himself from the line of succession. But it would be a wonderful parallel to Aemon, especially because there's so much about there's been a long-standing theory that Jon's real name is Aemon.
Yeah.
In the show, it's Aegon. They went that way, but still, it still fits. It would just fit slightly better if his name was Aemon. Okay, so that's pretty huge. Now, Jon's reaction to his own parentage could go a lot of ways. He's probably brooding. Is going to be part of it. That's one of the few things we can be sure of. And probably the scene we see him down in the crypts is at least related to this, or certainly could be related to that. Do you have any thoughts on how he might react? If it changes his sense of duty, or if it just is like, well, it doesn't really matter. I still have to fight the others. It still comes down to that.
I think that Jon, he might realize that he needs to say or do things in some different way. Like, he doesn't really want to be king of the North. He is willing to be king of the North because he believes it's the best way to get his people to fight the Night King. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mance didn't. It's not like Mance wanted to die or didn't want to bend the knee to da-da-da. He just realized that as the leader of the free folk, he can't bend the knee.
Yeah.
And he needs to be leader of the free folk if there's any chance of saving them from the Night King. Like, the people who've seen the Night King, everything they do is, in the big picture, trying to deal with the Night King.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? They stop caring about being king or their honor.
It's very
or whatever
similar to
it
what
is.
we're talking about. And Mance was like, look, set your grievances aside. I know you hate me, maybe you hate each other, but this is way above. This trumps that by a mile.
Yeah.
Same as like Bran not hating Jaime, all that. Yeah.
By the way, Melisandre included.
Yes.
When they were about to execute
Shireen?
Davos.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on, wait, you got to read this message first.
She flipped like immediately.
She's like,
oh.
The War of the Five Kings means nothing. Let's head north. Don't kill Davos.
It was like 2 cents. She's like, yep, okay.
Not just like, maybe we should deal with this, or we can get back to the War of the Five Kings later. After we did, she's like, the War of the Five Kings means nothing.
Yeah, it was still.
Let's go right now and forget everything else,
It was so unequivocal.
Yeah.
And she's right. Like,
Yeah.
pretty much seems like she's right. One of her predictions that is correct.
So I think that other characters, at least at first, will struggle with what to do or how to do or when to do or why, who's in charge, But Jon is not one of those people. And so if he believes that bending the knee to Dany is the best way to get everyone to fight the Night King, he'll bend the knee to Dany. If he believes that not bending the knee and marrying Dany or staying in charge of Winter, whatever it is, and he'll tell Dany, like, look, I'll bend the knee to you later, but right now we got to keep everyone, whatever it is, even he, maybe not Jon actually, because when he went to talk to Cersei, and she's like, fine, I'll go fight with you as long as you promise that you'll bend the knee to me after the fact. He's like, I can't, already made a vow to Dany, and everyone's like, just lie. Tyrion's like, just tell a lie and do whatever later. So Jon may not, although maybe he learned a lesson from that. Maybe even Jon will be willing to tell a lie to save everyone. I'm not sure. I would be interested to see, but I think he'll try to find some way around it.
He may have learned. It's funny. He may have learned his lesson because they were like, "Look, you could lie, everyone. Like you could lie at least." When he's like, "No, we can't lie about anything." He's like, "Jon, I think the occasional lie is okay, buddy. Maybe." But he didn't seem to agree even after all that. He still didn't seem to back down. So I don't know. Yeah,
and we did follow that up with Cersei having lied.
Yes.
And it's kind of like you see Jon's point. Like if you just can't trust, if Cersei can make this proclamation and then take it right back. You can't trust her. Well, if Jon makes a proclamation, takes her right back, you can't trust him either. So he understands that in order for people to follow him in this battle against the Night King, people have to be able to trust him.
Yeah.
But if there is no one to follow him, it doesn't matter if they trust him. So somewhere there's going to be some balance. There's going to be some conflict. It'll be neat. Obviously, we're making a lot of effort to try to figure out how it'll play out. It makes me even wonder if maybe they won't immediately have or resolve this conflict, because it seems as though this Battle of Winterfell is going to be in episode 3.
It does seem that way.
And I think at that point, everyone will just be like, okay, whatever. Whoever's king. I think everyone will have this similar mentality.
Too terrified to do anything else.
So until then, there may be squabbling. They may drag out the decision or the conflict, because we do have other things to hit on, right? We might follow Jaime's journey north. Maybe stops at the Twins and brings Edmure with him or something. Maybe we see Euron conflict with Theon. We have other plot lines that they can drag out so that we don't fully get. It might be like the final scene or something.
Yeah, sure.
Of the first episode is the reveal that of Bran and Sam revealing to Dany and Jon his true nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Because it makes sense to me for there to still be lingering conflict as we go into the battle, and after the battle, all that being gone and everyone being on board, this is the only thing that matters.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's well said. Shout out to Zazambaji in the chat, who found that Stannis quote, "I had the cart before the horse," Davos said. I was trying to win the throne. He's quote. That sounds confusing. He is repeating what Davos said to him. "I was trying to win the throne to save the kingdom, when I should have been trying to save the kingdom to win the throne." Yeah, very good. That's great. So that's kind of what Dany is realizing too. It's kind of a similar arc. In fact, it's a lot in common. They even both make that determination on Dragonstone, and partly because of a letter and being convinced by someone they trusted. And it's really quite nice. Okay, so a little farther on here, we have the North's reaction to Jon's parentage. We have Jon's reaction to Jon's parentage, but everybody else too. Like the North in general, we have more specifics. Sansa's reaction, maybe, because that maybe changed the line of succession situation, because he's not the son of Ned. That may be like, well, then does that put me ahead of you? I don't know. That's like a big deal to her, but it'll occur to her perhaps, and it'll definitely occur to other people. And perhaps more importantly, how does it affect Dany? And not just, I don't mean their relationship, because that's going to be, they're like, oh man, what have we done? But I just mean her view of him now, like she thinks she's the only Targaryen. And now she's like, well, why did it have to be the one guy I just banged? But he is a Targaryen, and that, you can see how that would directly lead to, by the way, I have an extra dragon, and you are my relative, and
if there's anything about Targaryen blood, or
so basically, this is what I'm saying is I think that Jon will be about to ride the dragon, or will ride the dragon by the end of this first episode, if not by episode 2, definitely before episode 3. I think that's a safe prediction. Do you disagree? Or
I totally agree.
Okay.
For one, I do think that most of the conflicts, we'll say, that I can think of that will happen in this first episode are dramatic conflicts.
Yeah.
There's no lives at stake. There's no action. And I don't think we're going to go a year and a half, no Game of Thrones, and an hour and a half long episode and have no action. Nothing but slow, tense drama. There's got to be some violent conflict.
What do you think it will be? Because I don't know that it could be at Winterfell, right? Like, it seems like unlikely to happen at Winterfell, so that means it has to happen in the South. Maybe with regards to Theon's plot, because that's like the one small plot. We have Cersei's plot is huge. The northern plot is even huger, probably, and then Theon and Yara and Euron, kind of their own little small plot, and there aren't a lot of other small plots.
It might not be a violent conflict for Jon to ride the dragons, but it will be action. It will be exciting. It will be a heart-pumping moment for the fans, right? But still, it can't last more than like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe, like maybe 7 whole minutes. But I do think that we're going to get some other sort of conflict, violent confrontation, and it makes most sense to me for that to come from Euron. Whether it's Euron and Theon, or...
I have another suggestion. I should have mentioned it amongst this group. We have the characters still at the wall.
Oh, yes.
Sandor, Beric, and
Tormund.
And Dolorous Ed is a named character there as well. And we did see them in the trailer doing something. It was very vague what was going on, but something was happening. It had the feel of action. They had swords drawn. There was a little bit of fire. I mean, it was his Beric's sword, but he had his sword lit, which means he's ready to go. So, or he's suspecting danger. So I think actually that might be our best candidate for some action.
Yeah, they could easily have a skirmish at least.
Yes.
Because it makes sense that Tormund and Beric, they were like barely escaping the collapsing wall. And one thing I will say is I don't think that the wall's hundreds of miles long. I think like half a mile got destroyed and the whole army just went through. I don't think all the rest of it's destroyed.
You're right, yeah.
But I do think that Tormund and Beric are going to run back to Castle Black, I suppose.
Presumably, I agree. Or maybe a different
and warn
castle.
everyone, hey, there's no point in defending the wall anymore. The Wildlings and the Army of the Dead have gone south of the wall. We need to go warn Winterfell. And on the way down to Winterfell, they might encounter some Wildlings. Or not Wildlings. Well, maybe some Wildlings. But,
or some undead,
but some undead, right. Okay. And there'll be a battle. And then they'll show up, hey, we got this warning,
My only prediction for that is I think Ed, Beric, and Tormund could all die. Maybe not all at once, but I think they're all in trouble. Like they're on their worries of the week, we'll say, bringing that term back. But Sandor is at least safe for the time being, because I do not think, I mean, they just punched us in the face with Clegane Bowls happening. When he walked up to his brother and said, I'm coming for you. I mean, come on. If they don't give us Clegane Bowl, it was a huge fake out. So I think it's going to happen. And so that means he can't die up there.
I mostly agree with you, but let me tell you a couple counterpoints.
Okay, go for it.
That don't necessarily, I still think I agree with you, but I do want to consider a couple things. He didn't say, I'm coming for you. He said, what's coming for you. He did say, what's coming for you. And I have also kind of been speculating around the idea of exactly multiple characters. In fact, every character that's been told to look into the fire has seen something in the fire.
That's true.
And I have wondered if it's just being projected, if the Lord of the Light is just putting us out into fires, and if you know to look, you'll see it. And I wonder how long the Lord of the Light, if I'm right about this at all, has been doing it. And maybe Sandor and or Gregor saw it in a fire a long time ago, and they didn't really understand what they were seeing. But I'm just pointing out, it was worded vaguely in some way that I can't imagine. Now, I still do expect a Clegane Bowl, all that said. But I do want to point out one other thing. Arya told Sandor at one point, it was as they were approaching the Red Wedding. Because he said something to her that dug deep, something about Ned having been killed. And she looked at him. She said, one day, I'm going to run my sword through your eye and out the back of your skull.
And if he's an undead.
I think
she might do it if he's alive. I don't think she would do it if he's alive.
So it does make me think that now it doesn't necessarily mean it's happening in this episode, and I don't know how it can happen in this episode and still have a Clegane Bowl letter, unless somehow the mountain gets north, or I don't know. I'm not sure how it can happen. But I do feel I am in general afraid for Sandor making it through the season. Maybe not this episode.
I agree. I think,
and I do default to there being a Clegane Bowl, but maybe Sandor's dead at that moment. I don't know.
They're both dead when they fight.
Yeah. Imagine Sandor fighting the mountain with needle through his eye.
He's already like, it doesn't even bother him. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's an interesting take. I mean, you just can't know how they're going to do that. Yeah, there's because undead is a thing. He doesn't have to be alive for that. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of is an interesting segue to another topic we've discussed on and off, or at least thrown out there, something that we think is going to happen. Being faced with beloved characters as undead.
Yeah.
So have you reconsidered or thought about who you think maybe the most likely one, maybe the ones that would have the most impact, the ones that would make us cry, the ones that would be hard to take? I'll throw a few names out there. One I don't think is going to happen is Hodor, just because of the logistics of they would have to bring Christian Nairn back and give him a contract again. And I don't know. It seems like they could go with a different choice there.
Some logistic issues might also apply to someone like Ygritte.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so here's some other possibilities. These characters we just named that are maybe in the north. Tormund.
Oh, wait.
Ed.
John burned Ygritte, didn't he?
Yeah, you're right. So Ygritte couldn't. Yeah, Ygritte couldn't. He's smart. He was smart. Yeah, don't let that. Don't even let that be a possibility. And then, so that would create these guys as possibilities. The characters that are still in the north. Any of these Night's Watchmen or / Tormund who are still alive. And Beric. Though Beric's been raised. He's already undead. That's a whole other category. I don't know how to classify him. Someone says Summer as a white. The poor direwolf. Boy, that would hurt. That would hurt.
Could happen. We've seen horses and bears and so on.
That would be rough. But another one I think is particularly possible and would be somewhat fitting and would be really hard to take is Brienne.
Yeah. Who, by the way, is another person
Frontline fighter, puts herself in danger, and if she becomes a white, she's utterly terrifying because she's big and dangerous and...
Yeah, just so you know, I think those might be my top 2 predictions to die of the season, are Brienne and Sandor. I think those are the 2 characters that
frontline, like big tank type characters.
Yeah, the characters that I love that I don't want to die. I think they're some of the best characters of the show, but I still think, I mean, that is part of being bittersweet. Maybe not every character that is likable has to die for it to be bittersweet, but some of them are going to. There's no question. They're charging in a battle against this ultimate. If no one dies... If characters that we care about don't die, then we don't really. The Night King's not really a threat. We're not really, you know what I mean? Like it almost has to for us to care about this. For the Night King to really be a threat, for us to really have emotions evoked, they're gonna have to be characters we care about die, and it can't just be tertiary characters that are kind of fun. You know, it's got to be real characters that really mean something.
Yeah, I think that's and that puts a lot of these second tier characters. That brings me back to. Some of these characters we mentioned already that their reactions aren't as important, but will probably happen, like Lyanna Mormont, Lord Glover, and Jon Royce, right? And any one of those could be a white, right? Imagine little Lyanna Mormont as a white. That would be kind of up there with like what we got out of that Carsey scene when she sees her kids and she just kind of surrenders to that. She just can't do it. Would the audience surrender at that point? Little Lyanna Mormont as a white, like, done, I'm out. Some people would be like, good. I hate that annoying little girl. Not me. I like her, but I've seen that sentiment. That she's a little over the top. So that's another possibility. That one wouldn't. She's not terrifying as a white because she's so small, but she is terrifying as a like. Oh my god, that's awful to see that. I
feel like a lot of characters at this point they know they need to burn the bodies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like Jon told Stannis when Stannis showed up. North of the wall when he was talking to Mance. If my father had seen what I'd seen, he'd tell you to burn all the bodies, you know?
Yeah.
But
with dragons in the mix, that seems like it's not unlikely to happen anyway.
Easier to take care of.
It's just kind of already going to happen. Here's a super chat from DSG. Dany will be more happy she has a family member than angry. Remember her convo with Jon? She's sad that she's a less Targaryen. Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, the whole thing about the line of succession is a whole separate conversation. And it doesn't have to bleed directly into her being happy that she has a family member. On the other hand, she's going to find out that she just slept with that family member, which might creep her out quite a bit. And she's still going to have those feelings, so it's going to be something to work through. I'll follow up from DSG. Also in the books, the blue rose growing from the wall filled the world with sweetness. Yes, that's true, the sweet smell. However, the blue rose is also referred to as having this sickly sweet smell. It's kind of a iffy sort of, I don't know, almost like ice and fire, life and death kind of conundrum, both at once. But but we'll have to see. I do agree that I think Dany's reaction, it can't be all good and it can't be all bad. But I do think it's not unlikely to have some very strong good in it, maybe even more good than bad. Jon, on the other hand, I think his initial reaction is going to be pretty negative, but he may work through it and come to a place where he's okay with it. But he's going to feel like Jon takes truth really seriously, and he was lied to his whole life. That's going to be the part that's hard for him, is like he really trusted Ned, and Ned didn't tell him this. And because he wouldn't even lie about the Cersei thing. Yeah. And so this is like his father that he really reveres, like kept the secret from him. And I think he'll get over it probably, but it's going to hurt. It's going to sting, you know?
There is, keeping a secret can be deceitful. But it is different from telling an outright lie.
Right, that might be how he works through it, like realizing that it was.
And Jon has kept secrets too. Off the top of my head, he understands that it's important sometimes to keep secrets. So remember when
he lied to Ygritte and lied to the wildlings about,
yes, right? And it was like for this bigger cause.
Yeah, he didn't lie to her about loving her. He really did love her, but he was lying about his intent to like stay with her.
Yeah. And he tried to not tell direct lies too. He did, like when he was talking to Mance, trying to say that I was on your side or whatever. He did try to say I'm on the side of, I wish I remember now, but he said something like, I'm on the side of the living, or something like that, which isn't the same as I've left the Night's Watch. Does that make sense? He tried to give himself an out to not be telling a direct lie.
Okay. Yeah.
And he definitely kept a secret when he went to visit Dany. And Dany, Melisandre is spouting off all of Dany's titles, and Davos is like, this is Jon Snow.
This is Jon Snow.
He's king of the North. Yeah.
That was great.
But in that scene, he starts to rattle off Jon's accomplishments. He's like, look, you've done XYZ great things. Guess what? So has Jon. He brought wildlings south of the wall. He did da-da-da-da. He took a heart, and Jon's like,
Wait.
Davos cuts it. But you see, Jon wanted to keep that secret. He knew that could be a distraction from what they really need to get accomplished. Don't go telling that to everybody.
So he does make a distinction on the value. Like, it's not just all lies are bad. He does make value judgments on when it's okay. He just very much leans towards tell the truth unless you have a really good reason not to, which is kind of why people got mad at him. It's like, we do have a compelling reason to lie here.
Right. It's not like Ned told Jon, you are not my sister's son. Right? It's not like he told some direct lie. He just kept a secret. He just didn't say, you know what I mean? So
yeah. And that's the thing he has to work through. I was looking through. He has to put himself in Ned's shoes and kind of try to understand why this lie was told, and then I think he'll probably get to the place where he realizes it was for a good reason. It may not make him happy, but he'll understand, hopefully. And he's got Bran to help him look up the details. Like, hey, did my father? What was the wording he used when he told me? Look that up for me, will you, Bran?
Also, but two things. One, I want to talk about Bran real quick. I want to go back to what we were saying about Bran and Sam.
Sure.
But also, I want to point out that Jon has specifically broken his vows multiple times. At least what he maybe like sleeping with Ygritte. Maybe Sam would argue the details of how the wording of the vows are. Like, father, no, well, you didn't father a child. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, you can go, But Jon believes, I think Jon even said something like, I don't think Alistair Thorne's about interpretations or something like that, Jon believes that he was breaking the vows when he did that. Jon ran away from the wall to go fight with his family. You know what I mean?
True.
The brothers came and brought him back. But my point is that Jon doesn't live up to his own standards always. He tries to. Right. He's trying to be honorable, but no one's perfect.
That's a good point.
So if he may tell a lie or keep a secret or whatever and feel guilty about it, but it might be more justifiable for the sake of saving everyone than of like some emotional response to a family conflict that he's broken his vows for or lied over or whatever before. But here's another thing that I keep thinking about. They haven't mentioned it in the show one time, but it's so prominent in the books. This prince, I guess they have mentioned Prince of Promise, but the Azor Ahai, they constantly talk about this flaming sword that's coming, you know? And Beric has a freaking flaming sword, and I don't know if he's gonna die. I don't know if he's the prince that was promised. I don't know if Jon's gonna get his sword somehow. I don't know what it is, but the fact that they haven't mentioned this in the show at all, I'm realizing that this is the time. I had this thought in my mind that it's kind of too late. If they were gonna do it, they would have already done it. But this is the time with Bran and Sam together, with Sam and all the books and Bran and all his flashbacks. I think that in this first episode, we're going to hear that prophecy read. We're going to hear that prophecy read in this first episode.
Sam might just bust it right out. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. From Winter's King, comment, Golden Company elephant whites. Woo, yes, I would love to see undead elephants. I think it's maybe too much to hope for, but please, I will utter a prayer to the Seven, to the Drowned God, to the Storm God, to R'hllor, and to the old gods.
So ice spiders as big as hounds.
Yeah, and all these other gods back here.
Ice spiders as big as elephants.
Ice spiders as big as elephants. Yes, ice spiders as big as mammoths. So yes, gimme. We'll take that. Also, Super Chat.
what about ice mammoths as big as spiders? That'd be pretty.
Oh God, that's tiny and like step on it, just crush it. I mean, people are afraid of cockroaches.
Tuskwood poking in the bottom of your feet, crush it.
Yikes! Okay, that's a little scary. Okay. Super chat from DSG. They are Targaryens, meaning Don and Jenny. Don and Jenny. Ye gads, my pronunciation of names today is just really terrible. At least it's funny. John and Danny, they bring a whole new meaning to kissing cousins. Indeed, they do. Okay, so let's do a quick mid-roll shout-outs and then get back to some other discussions. We got plenty more to talk about. From Aja the Third, donating free super chat. Danny plus John equals Rhaenyra plus Daemon. Yep, I would agree. There's a lot of parallels between those characters. And Rhaenyra and Daemon were related also. They were uncle, niece, and in this case, we have aunt, nephew. So, yep. Very good. Okay, so shout out to our Blood Riders. Vorsaki, wielder of a Valyrian steel Arak with a dragonbone hilt. Koho called Sunpiercer, wielder of a dragonbone bow. Kakavo the Tamer, wielder of the wildfire whip Gehenna. We have our Queens of Love and Beauty. Erin, Lady of the Long Desert, names Emma of Starfall the Queen of Love and Beauty, in sight of pods and men. And from the depths of Fleabottom, Lord Ken of House Hammer has declared for Queen Carrie, Fire of the North, who recovered Dark Sister from beyond the wall. And a shout out to our Northern champions, being that we are talking so much about the North, not only about the North, but so much about the North. Let's give them a shout out, if I can find them. Here we go. Jay Wilson, Winter's King. Sir Stephen, the Hammer of the North. Winter's King, Lord of the First Men. Lady Ardros, Mother of Wolves, wielder of the Valyrian Steel Claymore Manticore. Sir Brian the Return, Knight of the Last House, wielder of the Valyrian Steel Blade Red Song. Sir Kobe of House Stonesmith, words are wind, deeds are stone. Lady Cat Jones of the Big Pond, wielder of the Valyrian Steel Blade Ginger's Honor. Jake Snow, a.k.a. Jacob Ice Eyes, is the bastard of the Last River. Lord Darren of House Rambler, motto The Last Hunt is Ceaseless. Lady Bobby of House Mitchell. And Bullweir the Purple of Heavenly Myth Head House Taurus. Also, a shout out, something cool that Ashea had sent to her. There's a website called www.doyouknownothing.com, and it gives you a list of interesting questions for which encourages you to make predictions for what's going to happen. For example, the first question is, who will be the first character to speak in episode 1? So just a lot of fun little questions like that. I think it's 34 questions or something.
The Night King.
32 questions. The Night King. Well, that would be a surprise. I'm guessing not a lot of people picked that one. But so that's a lot of fun. So shout out to them for making a fun fan experience for people out there just because they wanted to.
I'm going to my cursor in the document too.
Your cursor in the document. I do not see your cursor.
We'll go to the end of the document.
Also, Athena Zarmakupi, tell us about the Book of YouTubers. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you for that question. We did me and Ashea wrote a chapter in a book called The Thrones Effect, which will be out very soon. It'll be out on audiobook and hardcover and ebook. And we co-wrote that with a bunch of other YouTubers and a few non-YouTubers. Gil from Game of Thrones Academy, Val from Because Geek, Chris from Smokescreen, Gray Area, Secrets of the Citadel, Ideas of Ice and Fire. I'm doing this from memory, so I might forget somebody. Us, also a few other people. I probably forgot somebody. Apologies for that. But as you can see, it's a very nice lineup. Our chapter that Ashea and I wrote is related to the spread of Game of Thrones in both movies and TV show, as in references, how many references pop up, which is it's really crazy how many references appear in TV shows and movies. For example, it appeared in Shazam, which is a movie geared at kids. And a kid was like, it's real Game of Thrones up in here in the orphanage. Like an orphanage scene. He says, it's real Game of Thrones in here. I'm like, damn. But, and so that one didn't even make the book because I just saw that last week. But, for example, we talk about how Dwight teaches Aaron Dothraki in The Office and how there are more kids named Arya than Betsy as of like 2016, and how there's just tons, and how there's like mushrooms named after Game of Thrones stuff and lizards named after Dany's dragons and things like that. So it's really, it's a lot of fun. And that's just our chapter. There's other chapters on great topics that you guys should like. So we'll be promoting the book a little bit more once it's actually available for purchase. So consider this a teaser. All right, well, let's get back to it. I don't think I had any other mid-roll stuff. A super chat from Dan Horries, but no attached questions. So thank you for that, Dan. All right. I have a couple of questions that we'll get to near the end, a couple of like prediction type questions, but let's continue on with some of the things that we can learn from these initial scenes and things that we might expect to see. Bran, let's talk about a little more about what Bran could reveal. One thing that nobody really knows in the story, except maybe Bran, and he hasn't revealed it if he does know, is what exactly, if anything, is the Night King's purpose? Is it simple destruction of humanity? Is it that simple, or is there a specific target they have in mind? Are they going for the God's Eye? Do they want to kill Bran? Because he did kill Bloodraven, the Three-Eyed Raven, so it makes sense. And he was certainly trying to kill Bran. They were trying to chase all of them, so that could be a big part of it. So it's not, so the fact that they're specifically targeting Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven implies that it's not just kill everyone, but that might still be part of it, kill everyone. So what might Bran, you have any thoughts on what Bran might reveal to us about the Night King's purpose, or just in general, what Bran might tell the people gathered at Winterfell is what they're faced with?
So it is a question that comes up a lot, that I've heard asked a lot, that I've asked myself a lot, is what does Night King want? And I sort of default to kill everyone. That's kind of what I think is just the basics of it. At one point, I read somewhere that I wish I could remember. I wish I could better attribute it, but I think that D&D said at one point that they have no intentions of the Night King ever speaking a line.
I think I remember that line too, yeah.
Which means it's going to be hard for him to reveal his motivations. Now, they could still be revealed through Bran, through some flashback or some prophecy, maybe even that we saw the character get turned in by the Children of the Forest to a White Walker. Maybe that character will have a speech to the Children of the Forest. You know, I could see ways they could still do it.
Yeah, okay. That's good point.
But I still kind of suspect it's going to be some vague, sweeping thing like kill everyone. I think that the Night King basically represents evil, or I'm going to go ahead and say darkness, death, right? They kind of roll up in one. And this is what I found myself asking during my rewatch. I found myself asking more often than what does the Night King want? What does the Lord of Light want? I realized, I'm pretty sure, this is the thought that I had.
Interesting question.
Think about this for a second. Throughout the course of the series, a little bit less in this last season, but throughout the course of the series, I think there have been more characters driven, more decisions made based around the Lord of Light than around the Night King.
Oh, okay.
Most people barely believe in the Night King, barely know that he exists.
They don't even know he's a thing, yeah.
Right, but
they're not aware of him.
Whole armies have rallied around the Lord of Light.
R'hllor is the most popular religion in the world that we know of.
You're right.
Yeah.
And so it makes me think a lot about what does the Lord of Light want? All these prophecies that Melisandre sees, that Jojen isn't necessarily getting prophecies from the Lord of Light, but the same prophecies that people that worship the Lord of Light seem to see, Jojen is also seeing. There seems to be some connection here. And if correct me if I'm wrong, but R'hllor is the Lord of Light, Heat, and Life.
Light, fire, and shadow is sometimes how it's broken down. But
the religion is binary.
Yeah.
The Lord of Light is on one side, and the Lord of Darkness, Death.
The great other, they kind of refer to.
Right, is on the other side. In the books, the White Walkers are even referred to as the others. Plural. I just feel
can't miss that distinction. Yeah,
right.
It's hard.
And
to
so
others. Yeah, in the show they're not called the others because of Lost.
Yeah. And we see these simultaneously rising forces of the Thoros being able to resurrect Beric and Melisandre coming over these visions and trying to find a prince. All this happened at the same time that the Night King is coming. So, like, coincidence?
Yeah.
I think...
An era of gods and wonders.
Right, and I think, again, it's just going to be kind of vague, but I think really what's happening is that these supernatural forces are having this conflict that's playing out on the realms of men. And it's what the Lord of Light wants is light. And what the Night King wants is dark. And they're just in conflict with each other.
Some duality going
and
on
it's
here.
not going to be some complicated, nuanced shades of
There must
power
be
struggle,
balance.
right? Where I think it's just the Night King wants to kill everyone. And the Lord of Light wants to stop the Night King. Because the Night King is darkness and death, and the Lord of Light is light and life. And,
Okay.
I think that, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I think the Night King wants, and I think that's what Bran is going to reveal, if anything.
I think there's some thematic elegance to that. I maybe don't agree with all of it, but I think as an arc, like as a overview of how maybe the gods are seeing things, it's a good theory. Super chat from Maura Lee. Not too much longer now for season 8. Just the love of the show, or just a show of love and support for all the excellent content. Thank you very much, Maura. Very generous. Always glad to see you in the chat here. And yeah, we're so excited. We're so happy. We're so grateful for everyone being here and that we get to go through this live and experience it with our friends and fandom family. It really means a lot to us. It's going to be so much fun. Let's see. So that actually leads us, is a great segue. This last topic you delved into is a great segue to a character we haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about, but who is definitely going to play a role. And it's really hard to see what that role is going to be. Melisandre.
Melisandre.
Gilisandre. Because actually, have you ever seen them together?
Oh.
Gilisandre. That's her ship name.
By the way, I said that joking with Gilly, but I do wonder how central. Like in fact, I kind of wanted to back up because I realized that there are maybe. Let's say that the Night King does just want to kill everyone.
Yeah.
He might have some intermediate steps.
He might want that baby.
Exactly, right. He might know that he needs to kill Dany or get a dragon or kill Jon or stop Bran. Or like he might recognize there are key obstacles in his way to killing everyone. And so he may have some detailed plans in that course.
If I could just jump in for a second, the one part of the does he want to kill everyone theory I definitely think is wrong is that he doesn't want to mindlessly kill everyone. There's definitely strategy and intelligence and planning behind what they do. Yeah.
Just like even if Melisandre / Lord Light just wants to stop the Night King.
Yeah.
Step A, find the Princess of Promise. Step B, conquer Westeros. Step C, whatever.
Profit.
Yeah. That's Tywin's. That's the Littlefinger Lannister.
Dude.
Yeah.
Okay. They're trying to introduce a new ice coinage to Westeros. They're trying to get off the gold standard and go to ice.
But anyway, I do think it's possible that there is some compass guiding the Night King toward that baby.
That compass is pointing south.
Yes. Like they were certainly visiting Craster for who knows how long.
That implies an arrangement, like intelligence, of course. Some other things.
And there are also some other like interesting things like that I don't know quite how much stake to put in this, but you remember that one theory that Brian Eidolon had at DragonCon.
Which one was that?
The idea that the Nightwalkers, the White Walkers, have some sort of relationship with Craster, which means they may have some sort of knowledge about what's going on with the Wall and the Night's Watch, right? Whether they observe it as they go near Craster, when the Rangers go near Craster,
they see through the trees,
or they might hear Craster might tell them information specifically. Maybe they just see visions like Bran and other characters, right?
Yeah.
So when Royce shows up, think how many similarities from a distance there are to Royce and Jon, and maybe even other characters like Bran, right?
Yeah,
this young, noble character, right? If the White Walkers,
it's becoming a vampire show
have
now.
have some awareness of prophecies of some sort, if they have some vision, and maybe it's something that like 1,000 years ago, there's a prediction that 1,000 years from now, this young character of Blood of the Old Men is going to appear and be our nemesis. They might be on the lookout for them. And Royce matches some of these criteria. So they might have been, because think of what a show of force they have for this random Night Watchman. Like, it wasn't just mindless zombies. A team of White Walkers were there to meet this guy. And they just easily cut him down. And I wonder if they're like, oh, no, what are we worried about? Now, let's go. And they head south and in. But then when they see Jon, they're like, ooh, maybe he's the one we're worried about. But anyway, you could see that there might be different things directing them toward some character they realize is their nemesis, whether it's Jon or Bran.
The prince that was promised could be a figure of evil to them. Like, that's the character that they need to kill because he's the guy. Okay, so
Blood Raven could be a nemesis to them, even if it's not the prince was promised, and so they need to get Bran. They need to get Jon.
Let me add a couple things to what you've said here. First of all, this is a theory that has been around for a little while. It's a good one. It's our friend Joe Magician has a video dedicated directly to it. It's called Death of a Ranger. And it explores the possibility that the others were, in fact, thinking that Waymar Royce was Jon Snow. That they were looking for him specifically. I think there's some issues with that theory. Regardless of whether the conclusion of the theory, it's really fun to explore. Anyway, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I want to point out something that I noticed, that other people have noticed as well, that when we covered the prologue of Game of Thrones on one of our Patreon-only episodes, I noticed that when Waymar Royce goes to fight the Walkers, they pause briefly to look at his sword.
Oh. Wow.
To make sure either, and to me it's just like, is that Valyrian steel? Like, to me it's a little simpler, like, should I be worried about that sword? No. Okay, let's go. Yeah. And then they fight him and kill him, and it's easy. But there's that pause is very telling, and it's because
the fact that they know they need to look out for Valyrian steel, even if they don't know some certain character to look out for. But they might be looking out for some certain character that they know has one. Yeah,
exactly. So that's where I think it's a great seed to go off on that theory. Now, where it leads, that's up to the individual. But it's
even Bran for a minute had a Valyrian dagger for.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's a really wonderful path to tread and explore. So yeah, so big shout out there to Joe Magician for that one. But I actually wanted to talk about Melisandre. We talked about Gilly and this other stuff. Anyway, it's fine. The order, it doesn't matter what order we do it. So yeah, we still got about 40 minutes or 30-ish minutes. We've got time. So Melisandre, yeah. So she says that very cryptic thing to Varys. She's like, "Oh, I'm coming back, and I'm going to die here, and so are you." She says, "I'm going to die in this. I have to die in this strange country, just like you do." But she's not just leaving to take a vacation. She's not going over there just for a minute to like rest and recharge and come back. She's like, I need to go have some tea and chill, smoke a joint. No,
I think I left the oven on.
Yeah, she went back there to do something, to get someone, or all of the above. And I don't know what it could be other than, because I see it coming in the books, R'hllor-ism, like the head priest of R'hllor in the books has openly declared Dany as Azor Ahai. Like, no bones about it. No, like with the authority of a religious zealot. Like Daenerys Targaryen is Azor Ahai, straight up in front of this massive congregation. And he's the head of the Red Temple and the biggest Red Temple in the world. So it's a huge declaration. We haven't seen anything like that in the show. Well, that's not true. We have seen that in the show. It wasn't this bold declaration in front of lots of people. That one red priestess, the Kinvara, was like, you.
We've also seen something else kind of like this in the show. The Sparrow. Think of how much this religion mobilized militarily.
Yes.
Right? To be a significant force that was difficult for the queen to deal with. Right?
Yes.
So it seems to me that the priests of R'hllor should be able to raise an army.
I agree, 100%. They're fanatics.
And Melisandre could go back and say, yeah, she's got the dragons, man. They're full grown and everything.
And and then she's got this is the checking all the boxes of the prophecy. She woke dragons from stone. The dragons are there as proof that that she's their mother, etc. And the Melisandre has now seen the evidence of the Night King and all that. So
she's not a king of Westeros and will bring an army that is not of Westeros.
So that I do. So we kind of seem to have arrived at the same place. She's going to arrive with an army of devotees, of zealots who will be very willing to fight this undead menace, because it's like their apocalypse scenario. It's like this is the day of reckoning. By the way, in the book, it also Benero, while also declaring that Daenerys is Azor Ahai, he also says that fight in her army and live forever. Like you'll never die. It's like, whoa. Okay, that part gets kind of shuffled off to the side because the big thing is, whoa, he's just saying she's Azor Ahai. Like before, it was like, suspect Daenerys Targaryen is Azor Ahai, and this dude is just flat out saying it.
Yeah, but Melisandre flat out said it was Stannis, and she was wrong. So.
Yeah, so. Now Melisandre, of course that always seemed kind of a little off. With Dany, it seems like it might be right, but yeah. So even though it hasn't necessarily been foreshadowed a lot in the show, I do think that's where it's going to head in the show, which is Melisandre's going to come with a lot of people, and they're going to be. It might be kind of like the Knights of the Vale showing up.
Yeah.
like when they're most needed, like, oh, we're screwed, we're being overwhelmed, and then all of a sudden this massive army shows up, like at the wall almost, when with the Wildling army getting overwhelmed by Stannis, or the Knights of the Vale showing up the last minute to save them from the Boltons. I think it could kind of go like that, but we'll see.
They better show up with Dragonglass. I don't know, man. There might be a big army, but still, like.
Yeah, are they? I mean, maybe they just have a lot of fire. They love, it's R'hllor, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of dudes with torches and flaming arrows. I don't know. That's the part that's hard for me to figure. Like, how are they going to be equipped? What are they going to have? Like, is this? Yeah, what? It's just the overall part I can see fairly clearly, but the details, the when, the how they're going to introduce this, I have no idea. Like, it could be episode 3 when during this big battle. It could be the climax. It could be episode 6. I have trouble placing it in the chronology, but I do think something like that's going to happen. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have to discuss? We didn't really talk much about Cersei. We briefly touched on Theon, Euron, Yara. But let's talk about Cersei. I think her initial... the first thing she has to kind of respond to is Jaime being gone. And how that may play out. And what she's going to do in response to it, and I kind of think she's just going to keep going. That's just kind of how she responds to every loss. Is she just
there aren't many characters for her to interact with.
Yeah, Qyburn.
You've got the Mountain, which doesn't really speak,
and maybe this Golden Company commander will be somebody.
Bronn, which they won't speak to each other for real world reasons. Yeah. So then maybe you're on the Golden Company. That's about the extent of the interactions that she could even have at all.
You're on Qyburn, and Harry Strickland is the Golden Company's captain's name.
So I do suspect we'll get at least a moment in King's Landing, a conversation or two, a setup moment, or a reveal of the Golden Company or something like that.
Probably the Golden Company arrives this first episode. I was going to ask you if you think that.
Yeah, I do kind of think.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. It's this first episode. They always try to get a lot of setup done, and there's a lot to set up, and there's a lot that has to be taken care of before they can move on to some of these more climactic moments, like all these character interactions. And it does seem like this first episode is the place to do a lot of that. Qyburn, what do you think Qyburn's going to be doing? That's a tough one.
Yeah, I imagine he'll be experimenting on the dead, maybe working on scorpions,
more anti-dragon weaponry. Sure,
maybe just some advice to Cersei about the Golden Company, or I suspect it'll be kind of minimal. I don't think we'll spend a lot of time with him. I wish we would. I think his character is very intriguing, and I think he's also, by the way, one of the most successful characters of
as far as
series,
like
if you will,
getting his goals.
Yeah, he's never really failed. He's never really had any moment of failure.
He's a big part of why Cersei is still on the throne.
Right, exactly. And he's risen to one of the most powerful characters
she was
in
smart
the land.
As gross as it was for her to like take his advice and use him, like in terms of like pragmatism, it's worked really well for her. He has been extremely valuable to her. As much as, it's hard to root for her, but as long as it's like if you take the ethics out of everything, it's like, yep, that guy has been very helpful to Cersei. No doubt. That's a good point. And it's also a good point that she can trust him, because he knows that if she fails, if her regime collapses, he goes down with it. There's no place for him to be like Varys, where he can switch. He can somehow be part of Aerys's regime and Robert's regime, despite being so close to Aerys. Like, that's hard to pull off. Pycelle did a similar thing. Some of these guys, like, there's just no way that Qyburn can pull that off, because these regimes are so opposed to each other, and he's done some just dark stuff, and I mean, maybe not no way, but it seems like it would be hard for him to pull that off. Yeah, maybe not impossible. I kind of wonder.
I think that he also has a bigger. I don't think he necessarily has personal ambition. He's ended up in his high position. Yeah, but I don't think his goal was to be Grand Master of the whole land.
I think his goal is to be able to do these experiments. He wants to.
I think he has a bigger, kind of like Jon, some other characters. Yeah. He has a big. He maybe isn't like overwhelmingly concerned with the Night King, but I don't think he's concerned with himself personally.
Yeah.
I don't think he's concerned with who the king is. I think he's concerned with knowledge, the discovery of knowledge. Even at the sacrifice of tradition or ethics, even, he's just concerned with knowledge. And the knowledge he has might help people win some wars.
Yeah.
And that might keep him in some people's good graces.
He
when the
might
wars
be able to
end,
sell himself as, hey, my weapons design and stuff like that, I could help fight the others. That, and someone like Jon or Bran might actually be bought into that. I could say, okay, there is maybe a path for him. But let's assume he dies. What's his end? Is it he's just killed in the general slaughter of Cersei's regime following? Does the mountain turn on him? Maybe the others can control him. Or is it something more like Battle of Master of Whisperers, where Varys takes back his little birds and has them take out? There's a lot of ways that could go. Like a Battle of Master of Whisperers could be a thing. I kind of thought that would happen last season. Certainly did not even come close to happening, though. I
mean, Varys, I expect to die.
I do.
I don't know if it'll be
one of those predictions
before or after he
Melisandre's
kills
that's gonna be
Qyburn
right.
or first episode or last episode.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting.
White Varys could be a thing. Bald-headed Varys. White. He's quite white, yes.
It is worth pointing out that Melisandre said, I have to come back here to die, and it's just like you, right? Doesn't necessarily mean by the end of the season. Maybe they die at a ripe old age, but it just has to be here. It's possible.
What Varys is going to do is work to make Westeros not a strange country. So he's like, see, it's not a strange country. I'm going to die in this strange. It's a normal place now. So,
I don't know if it'll ever be a normal place.
No, probably not. Okay, so I agree with you that the Golden Company probably arrives. I agree that we definitely get some Cersei, maybe not a lot of it. I think most of the focus will be in the north. Do you think we briefly talked about Theon, Yara, and how maybe that's a way to get some action in this first scene. But even setting aside the fact that we talked it through and realized that probably the wall with Tormund and those guys is maybe more likely to be an action thing. If we do get Euron, Theon, Yara, how do you see that going? I mean, if Euron ends the series dead, it won't happen in episode 1. Theon, Yara, it's kind of tricky to see what they're going to be doing. If they resolve this early, do they then circle back and join the fight against the undead? Or do they be like, maybe it's so wise to stay on our islands where none of these undead can get to us?
Theon might get faced with some choice to save Yara or stop Euron. Euron's headed north with the Golden Company.
So he has
Yara's
a shot,
on a boat going back to the Iron Islands, and he can say, go save her or go stop this fleet or get the warning to Winterfell, and has to make this tough decision.
That would be tough.
Which maybe could culminate in a battle, but he might decide to go a different way, and it might be hard to convince his crew of it. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Let me ask a couple other questions about maybe things that we are a little off the beaten path. One non-spoilery comment we got from the showrunners, I think it was from the showrunners, is that they said that a lot of dangling plot lines will be kind of wrapped up. And I think there's a few that they just can't wrap up. For example, I think they did introduce Tysha, but then they threw that away, basically, Tyrion's ex-wife. And they did introduce the Horn. And Sam took it with him down south, and then we just never heard from it again. I think that Horn has just been tossed aside. It's not coming back. But there are some other small plot lines and small characters that might come back. Mira, for example. That scene kind of had a feel of she's gone forever. Like, I'm exiting stage left and not coming back the way she left. But that's not a sure thing. Do you think maybe we see Mira?
I kind of do. I want to for sure. I can see how that scene is like, okay, that's it for her, but I can also see how that was a little unresolved. Like in general, like Helen Reed is a character that's been referenced many times. As far as we know, he's still out there. So I don't think it's crazy to think. And he's also someone that could corroborate the story that Bran and Sam might give about who Jon Snow really is. So I can see her returning, maybe even with Helen Reed. But I don't know, maybe that's me rooting for that and not really thinking it's likely.
I feel like, I'm rooting for it, but I don't think it's that likely,
Also, Edmure, by the way, what the heck's going on with him?
I believe there was confirmation that Edmure was in the season.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, well then I definitely think Jaime's stopping at the Twins on her way north. I definitely think that then.
Huh, interesting.
I had considered it, but I felt like if they were dealing with Emmer, they would have done it when Arya was there. Why they can't go back there now? But if he's been cast or something, I think that's happening.
Okay.
I'm calling it now. Jaime stops at the Twins on the way north. Whether it's to amass more of an army to bring with them,
that would really work with
right?
our thing of maybe they can't deal with Jaime all at once. Like it would fit in with our envisioning.
Slow roll his show up.
Yeah, have him show up in episode 2. That's a good comment. By the way, speaking of comments, several comments about your Strong Bad shirt.
Oh yeah, this is breaking Strong Bad. For anyone that knows Homestar Runner and the real hero of Homestar Runner, Strong Bad.
Yes.
But this Strong Bad has the Heisenberg
If you're
hat
not
and goatee.
For people who are familiar with Strong Bad and Homestar Runner, Homestar Runner was invented about 30 minutes from where we live in Decatur, Georgia, here, which is an outside near Atlanta. So yeah, the three, it's a brother, 2 brothers and a sister team that made Homestar Runner.
Like early in the internet, just this little web series, comic series that centers around this character Strong Bad who answers people's emails and all the other surrounding characters. It's really clever. I don't know, mostly PG rated humor that the geeks will love. It might be hard to find now because it was all Flash. It was they were kind of innovating Flash stuff, and nothing works on Flash anymore. Like I think you might have better luck finding YouTube videos of it than I don't know. I think the actual website is not up anymore. Like,
okay.
I think they still have merchandise and work. I think they've gotten jobs in the IT industry or whatever. But
so someone else pointed out you've accidentally said Nightwalker a few times in the book. There is a character named Earthon Nightwalker, just for fun. That is a thing. Right. Some people have tried to tie him to Euron. That comment comes from I don't know how to change names. Thanks for that. Yes, good call. Super chat from Rebecca Santa, $8. Happy 8th season. 8 for the 8th. Talk about making the 8.
You're going to have to do a bigger super chat when you get to the 60th season.
You have plenty of time to save up for that. From Alexander Wilson, $5. Jar Jar Martin told D&D 3 holy shit moments. Shireen's burning, hold the door, and the last one coming at the end. What are your thoughts? Well, for a long time I thought it might be Tyrion Targaryen, but that's not. I don't think that's happening in the show. I'm like 98% sure that's not happening in the show. I have moderate expectations that maybe it'll happen in the books, but in the show, no, definitely not. So that can't be it. They couldn't be Jon's parentage reveal because they knew that. They had figured that out on their own. I don't know. Maybe it's something about the nature of the Night King or something about the nature of one of the other characters. I don't know. I don't have a great guess. I've thought about it before, and the guesses I've had in the past have been eliminated through other things happening.
I don't want to be the case.
What are some of yours?
The ones I think about are like the time shit that people.
Oh yeah, like Bran being the Night King or time travel stuff. Yeah, I don't want that either.
That's some of the ones I think about is about time being like a circle and some bullshit. I don't know. Anyway,
okay, yeah.
Be talking, but I have to chime in.
Shea says, in case anyone couldn't hear that, she's talking about the time being a circle stuff, Bran, Night King stuff, how she really doesn't want that to happen. I agree. I really don't want that to happen either.
I don't want it to happen, and I also don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it will either.
Just the nature of how everything else is gone. It's like, it just doesn't seem like that's the direction it's going. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is not Danny Boyle. If anyone knows Danny Boyle movies, he takes last quarter of his movies take these weird turns in other directions that haven't been the way the rest of it was going. I feel like they're gonna not suddenly turn us into time travel.
Here, another question for Book to Show from Shannon 0893.
This is for the Book to Show. I put it at the bottom as if for us to put it in the Book to Show episode.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a very easy question to answer. Okay. The question is, do you think we'll get a brief nod to the books and see/hear about Alice Karstark marrying a wildling at some point in season 8? We already got that. Alice Karstark already did get married in the show, to the boy Umber. Remember, Jon didn't strip their houses and let Alice Karstark and Umber marry each other and continue on as ownership of their houses, where Sansa argued that the castle should be given to somebody else. So I don't see. So maybe but that could happen in some other way. Maybe we get some other character marrying a wildling.
I think that's true, Aziz.
Oh, the marrying part?
No, I don't think they're required. I don't think he made them marry.
Oh, he didn't? Okay.
No, they just let them each keep their houses. They
okay.
Get married to each other. Then that's like some super uber house where they each have double the land. It's like the opposite of what I think you want.
Okay, yeah, no, you're right. They didn't. There was no marriage. That was just he just let them keep their house. Okay, you're right. So yeah, that could happen then.
That's
maybe
why
we'll.
Good for Book to Show because they didn't answer it.
That could happen. I don't think she'll marry Tormund, but yeah, some other wildling kid. That's a good point. Okay, yeah, good correction there. You're right. There was no marriage. There was just the characters being introduced. I wonder where I got that from. Anyway, wherever I got it from, it's wrong. My own brain made it up. All right, so let's move on. A couple other things. Let's see. Other characters we might see. We talked about Mira. What about Dario? I'm guessing no, because I just don't think his story is important. And maybe we get like a montage of seeing past characters, like seeing what he's up to, like really briefly. But the problem with stuff like that is the real life logistics of having this actor brought back. And
there's other problems with it too. Like I will say, there is a way he might return is with Melisandre.
Yeah,
that's the way it might happen. However, I don't think he will because it just discredits so much story. Think of the
she said she was going to Volantis.
Right, yeah.
Specifically, not Slaver's Bay.
But the thing is, as far as the show goes, those could be like next door to each other. He would just travel back and forth like it's nothing.
They could easily explain that he was in Volantis.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. But the thing is, it just shouldn't happen because keep in mind, Dany went through great efforts to free these cities. Even went back to re-free the cities. She put her quest for the Iron Throne aside to free these cities. Finally got there and then left someone that she trusts in charge. Look, and it was like this conflict between them. He's like, okay, fine. I love you and I believe in you. And so I'll do what you command. I'll stay here and rule these cities. And you think it's so important. We spent so much time in these cities and how important it was. And for him to just like, I'm going to leave now. There's no named character left in charge. It would be such a betrayal to her. It would be just an abandonment of everything that she thought was important before. It just can't happen. I would be frustrated if that happened.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I think I agree with that. I don't think I have anything to add other than I totally agree that I don't think we'll see him again. And if we do, it'll be a montagey, very brief thing, not a dedicated scene or even plot.
Like a character like Mira, I can see why maybe they don't need to bring her back, and external factors of I don't know. I can see reasons. There are reasons for certain characters not come back, because it doesn't make sense or it's not likely or whatever, but I think it would be actively wrong and bad for Dario to come back.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. What about a simpler, more fun character who is much closer by, like, say, Hot Pie? Was that the last we saw of him? Was his parting from Arya the end of Hot Pie? Or do we get hey, they're going to get hungry up there. We need some food. We need someone who knows how to brown the butter first.
So I think for him to come back, it would there's a couple ways it might happen. One way I think is unlikely. Again, I don't think it would quite make sense, but sometimes travel in Westeros, they do things that don't quite make sense. But if people from surrounding lands came to Winterfell for protection, right? But it doesn't make sense for people from South Winterfell to come up to Winterfell for protection from the White Walkers coming in. But what might make sense is if the White Walkers come down in Winterfell, and people in Winterfell are just trying to escape with their lives,
they're going to be warning
heading
everybody
south.
Else. Yeah.
On the way south, they'll go by Hot Pie.
And have lunch. And tell Hot Pie to come with. Because, hey, you make good pies. We need you with us to feed the army on the march. Super chat from Strange TV. Hi, Karen.
There's lots of people we could say hi to.
The comment says,
are watching.
Yeah, the comment says, I'm making my mom watch this while on vacation. Can you say hi, Karen? It will freak her out. Well, hopefully we
got a bunch of other Karens.
We freaked her out in a good way. Yeah, we picked up a lot of incidental Karens in that declaration.
Basically, that Nathan for you.
Yes.
Maura Lee says, I would hate to see Hot Pie as a white. Yeah.
Oh.
He wouldn't be very good at baking anymore. You can't get near that oven when you're... Hot Pie sits the Iron Throne. I would much prefer Hot Pie to sit the Iron Throne. Baked goods for all. A land of bread.
The Iron Throne gets moved into the kitchen.
Okay, so let's talk about a few other characters that we maybe haven't discussed yet. How about, say, as I said at the beginning, we discussed a lot of the more major characters, but one or two that we haven't discussed. How about Jorah? What do you see from Jorah coming up? We do know that he's at Winterfell. There's no ambiguity as to his location, and there's zero reason for him to leave, as far as we know. So he's going to be there. He's going to be in the front lines, probably fighting. He seems kind of in that wheelhouse of characters that probably won't make it. But
there's zero reason for him to live. He's a red shirt. That's my thought.
Okay.
I don't think it'll happen right off the bat, but I doubt he makes it to the end of the show.
Okay. Do you think he dies in the big battle in episode 3?
Probably.
Okay. Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. It obviously wouldn't be a huge surprise if he didn't, but yeah, I think he's on that chopping block. I think I got to agree with that. Do you feel similarly about Grey Worm?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
What about Davos?
I have a little more faith in Davos making it for a couple reasons. One, he's not a character that charges into battle. He might end up fighting.
He does occasionally, but he's not going to be in this one.
Right, it's not his role.
Right.
And in fact, like when they went north, he went north with Jon and crew, right? Mm-hmm. But didn't go all the way north of the wall with the Magnificent Seven. He stayed at the wall. Like, I'm a liability. I don't have fingers. I'm old. And there was another comment he made when...
Norman's like, yes, you are a liability.
Yeah.
So good.
When he was introducing Gendry to Jon, and he kind of prepped Gendry. He's like, look, don't tell
Your
him
name is Clovis.
Keep it secret. And
your name is Clovis. I'm Gendry.
Like, hi, I'm Gendry, son of Robert Baratheon.
Our dads were friends. And we're like, actually, your dads were not friends, Rhaegar.
You don't actually know who your dads were. But in that moment, Davos says... Pay no mind to me. I just lived through a ripe old age. That's all. Don't take my advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, good point. I think that Davos is more likely to make it.
He is a survivor. He is absolutely a survivor. That's a great point. And
he is willing to sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
So, like, and also included in that is willing to charge into battle, but he knows it's not his best role to be on the front line with a sword.
Yeah.
He can have a better impact in other areas, and so I think he will. Yeah. Still might end up dying, but I still think I wouldn't guess he's going to.
I think I tend to agree. I think Davos might make it, yeah. Podrick. What about Podrick? That's a tough one. If Brienne dies and he doesn't, that's rough. But if Brienne dies, maybe you could see him going down with her. That's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of he's one that I think kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. He's beloved, but he's definitely not a main character. He's kind of in the middle because he's around the middle, but he's not like the guy that gets focused on. So he's tough.
A primary, secondary, tertiary, courtiary?
Courtiary.
Is that a word? He's a courtiary character?
That's kind of, it's a tough one. Here, related question as to maybe plot lines getting wrapped up from Daniel Burhell. Do we see any more from the Faceless Men or Jaqen specifically, any of them? Or are they just out of the story? I feel like they're just out of the story.
Can Melisandre come back with the...
Yeah, like they're not in Volantis either, but again, they can play around with the locations and geography if they want to. They can. And that's another thing I can see if they want to give us like a montage of winter approaching. Braavos is really far north, even though it's on another continent, but it lines up with the northern part of the Vale. So if we see like winter seeping south, you might see like frost on the Titan.
It is worth noting that pretty much every culture of Planetos has a Azor Ahai-ish prophecy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you could see other realms being concerned. Like, I'm not sure, but let's say the Night King comes south and just wants to kill everyone. He's limited by the continent of Westeros. They even said, like, they can't swim, right?
Yeah.
You're on ass. Can they swim? I'm going back to my island.
Like, good. See ya.
Yeah. So Braavos would be safe, ostensibly, but
unless they freeze the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but it's possible.
But you could see the other continents might be concerned. I don't know how much other continents' prophecies and histories address the original Long Night. I'm not versed in that. I don't know how much you are. How that might be a whole nother podcast. We don't have time to start right now, but But it does make sense for Melisandre to come back with multiple allies, multiple armies, right?
Yeah, that's possible, sure. Yeah,
including Jaqen or whoever.
Yeah. Well, related question here from Alexander Wilson, Super Chat. James Hibbard from Entertainment Tonight said there is a surprising old character returning for the finale that he saw being filmed. Who is it? I think it's Jaqen. That's Alexander's guess, Jaqen. Well, that could be. I think we may have already touched on who it might be. Edmure. It could be Edmure. That's, I think, but if that was confirmed... I'm not sure if it was confirmed. So if it was confirmed, that wouldn't be a surprise, though. It might just be something that flew under the radar, which might be a surprise, but I'm not sure if that's quite the same thing. Jaqen would be a possibility there. Yeah, that would be a possibility. Other surprising old character? I mean, I don't think we would take old literally as in age, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it would be like Hot Pie. Wouldn't be surprised. The characters we already named, I don't think qualify. But Howland Reed we did name him. That would be a surprise. That what's that?
Not really returning.
Well, he was in the flashback scene, so you're right. You're right. That's not really returning.
Yeah, it would be a different actor.
Kind
playing
of
him.
returning. You're right. That's a good point. That might negate that possibility the way that's worded, but I wouldn't completely rule it out because we don't know that this is the same wording that was used in the article. So that's possible. I can't think of any other possibility. Craster? That would be kind of a surprise. He would be a white, right?
Yeah. Did they burn his body?
I think they burned his body.
John Shinoda. Oh, they burned the whole keep.
The whole
down.
keep was burned. Yeah, so he was probably burned. Yes, that's probably not Craster. But
it would be surprising for him to return.
1-1, the giant 1-1 being resurrected as a white. That would be surprising too.
I wonder.
Benjen would be a surprise.
Return,
yeah, that would be a surprise for sure. Okay.
It says Joffrey.
Joffrey. That would be really surprising. Yes, that would be super surprising. Okay, so let's see. Moving on. What's another character we haven't really discussed?
Good topic here I have.
You added another topic here?
No, that's just above the super chats.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, question from Jean-Luc Picard: will we see any major flashbacks? Great Other / the Pact, Dragon Bomb at Hardhome, anything like that? I do think that's possible. Obviously, it would have to be through Bran. There's a tiny chance it'd be through like Melisandre or something like that, but they haven't done that before. But they have done it with Bran, so Bran seems like very, very likely. Well, yeah, if it's gonna now, here's one thing: the prequel show that we've heard about is supposedly gonna deal with the origin of the others, which kind of implies that it won't be dealt with here in Game of Thrones.
Might be hinted at. They may lay groundwork for it.
Yeah, you're right. They might give some basics and then get more nuance, more detail with the show. So yeah,
maybe even introduce actors. You know,
yeah, that's possible.
I don't know. That might be information we'd already know if that was the case. But
the basic question is, will we see major flashbacks? And I think yes. I think we will see one, maybe not multiples, but one at least. But multiples, I don't know about multiples, but Bran's got to do his thing, and
it might be neat if just once we got to look into the fire.
Whoa!
Some character is instructed to look into the fire,
what
and
a cool idea.
we see the image coming through the flames. You know, I think that would be, and it makes some amount of sense for it to be John, for Bran, trying to show John. John needs to see, or someone needs to see, because that's another thing that's been pointed out several times. Is like people don't really, even if they believe John, even if they believe that there really are White Walkers and there really is a army of dead, they don't really understand it until they see it. Dany believed John, but now when she saw it, now she knows it. Remember when John woke up, Dany was at his side after barely making it to the wall or whatever. You know, they're breaking off his frozen garb and he immediately apologizes. I'm so sorry, for the dragon having died. I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it all back somehow.
Yeah.
She's like, wish we'd never gone. She's like, no, I'm glad we did because I needed to see it. Now I know.
Yeah.
Other people might need to know, and a way to know is if Bran could show them in the fire. If other people could see when Sandor saw it in the fire, he's like, okay, fine, let's go north. Gotcha. I believe it now.
Okay, so that's cool. That's a very cool idea. Obviously, there's no way for us to know when that could happen, but now that you've said it, I hope we see it. I'm backing up just a little bit to the holy shit moment question. We may have already seen it. It occurs to me that the raising of Viserion as an undead dragon might be that moment.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not 100% sure that will happen in the books, I could see it happening, something like it. Maybe the part that I don't know that will happen in the books is that dragon is going to be the means for bringing down the wall.
Or that some figure is going to ride that dragon.
Yes, that part also I'm a little dubious on. But the concept of an undead dragon in the books would be a whoa moment, that they may not have considered. So I could qualify. So I'll at least throw one guess out there with that being
Martin could have told them there will be an ice dragon, and they found a way to make an ice dragon.
Yeah,
Martin will find a different way.
Yeah, I agree. It could be a very different version of that same thing. Super chat from Danny Jeter Sr. I almost said Danny Cedar Jr. I'm reversing all sorts of letters today. Hey everyone, Dario can come back with an all hands on deck speech. That's true. Get everybody fired up to go to Westeros to fight the long night. Okay, so I think that's going to wrap us up for today. We want to try to keep these a little bit under our during the week reviews will probably bleed over 2 hours every once in a while, but these prediction episodes we'll try to keep under 2 hours because people have a limited time to watch it before the actual episode airs. Any final thoughts, Sean, or just fire it up, get ready for tomorrow?
I do. I'd have a couple little notes that I didn't get in yet. I want to point out that in the show, Kinvara said, Daenerys has been sent to lead the people against the darkness in this war and in the Great War to come. So,
2 different wars.
Yes. Well, the war was like against the Harpies.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And in the Great War to come, which I assume is against the Night King. But one thing that's worth noting here is that to lead the people in the war, not to rule the people after the war.
Yeah.
No,
she doesn't say anything about that. Well, it's not that she does.
Doesn't mean she can, but that's,
She doesn't eliminate that possibility, but she's not speaking to it either. That's
it's not what she was sent for. Maybe she'll do that. Maybe not, but let me think a second. I wanted to...
Could be her. I mean, that's something I've seen as my own, not my own, but my interpretation that is shared by many others is that Dany is a figure who is somewhat foreshadowed to sacrifice herself to save humankind. Not that I don't buy the Jon will kill her to save humanity, the Nissa thing. I don't buy that for a second because Jon will not do that. Jon wouldn't kill that old man. Jon wouldn't, he's not, this is not Jon.
Yeah.
And I don't think, first of all, I don't even see that scenario being necessary. But even if it does happen, it's just not the kind of person Jon is. I think Dany may be like putting herself in danger, causing her to die, saving humanity, sacrificing herself. Her agency, that's important there, not someone else's agency. So that's kind of maybe if she does die by the end, that's how I see it happening. Otherwise, I think she lives.
Yeah. I had a question for you, and I want to be careful not to open too long a can of worms here. But
okay, I'll try to be quick with my answer then.
Going back to the thought about like, what does the Night King want? What does the Lord of Light want? How old is R'hllor? We
don't know how old the religion is, but
because if it's approximately 8,000 years old,
it's older
approximately
than
how long since the Long Night. Was the R'hllor a long older? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's existed since before the first Long Night in some form or another. Probably it's changed. The religion is adapted over time, but I believe belief in because the prophecy, the Azor Ahai prophecy, predates the Long Night, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it almost would have to.
Or if it comes right after. Some aspects of it. I think some aspects of it predate. I have to check my notes, but some aspects of it don't for sure. Because it's about it refers to the darkness coming again, which means it has to be after. So, but there's certainly elements of the prophecy that date to before that, and certain elements of the culture that it came from definitely existed before the Long Night, like Ashai and all that. So that is a question that requires a bit more preparation.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
Related question also that can't get fully into now, but just a curiosity, what was the Targaryens? So Targaryens adopted the Seven when they came to Westeros,
but not before that. Yes.
What were they before that? They weren't R'hllor?
Valyrian, they had their own religion. Valyrian gods were a thing.
Okay.
And then, in fact, Balerion, Meraxes, and Vhagar were named after Valyrian gods.
Okay.
Yeah. So Aegon the Conqueror switched to adopt, it's very standard conqueror practice to adopt the religion of the people you're trying to rule. And Valyrian religion kind of died at that point because their continent had already exploded. And these were the only very few people were still honoring those gods, considering their continent was annihilated hundreds of years before.
We see in Vikings how the leaders of the powers that be, they don't really believe in these gods. It's like a tool to lead the people, but I don't believe this nonsense. Exactly, we'll switch religions. Yeah, sure, or whatever.
Which one will give me more? Oh, I can have more control over my people by switching? All right, done. Let's do it. Schedule that.
So
on the schedule.
One last thing.
Okay.
The wall was created with some amount of magic.
Yes, some amount of magic.
Was it like this one moment in the beginning that magic was imbued into the wall, or was it an after the fact thing, or multiple different instances of magic put into the wall over time by different characters, or is that also too complicated to get into?
Tune in next time to find out.
She tune in next time to find out. Yeah. Well,
partly asking because I'm wondering if part of the resolution of everything is that whether the Night King lives or not, whether or not someone goes back to the wall, Jon, to man it or rebuild it to whatever. Say magic is required. Where would it come from? Who would do it? Who has the magic?
Yeah,
Bran?
it's really
Blood
not.
Ravens?
It's really not stated. It's either just something that everybody assumes, or something like a legend that has been
maybe isn't even true.
Yeah, it's a legend that's been facilitated over thousands of years of repeating the same stories. But it does seem to be true though, because we've seen evidence of they can't pass, like that same magic that was protecting the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. Like the Whites tried to charge in and they just exploded. So there's clearly this magic does exist.
Yeah.
So we think it's from the children because the children were the ones in that cave doing all that stuff. It's the same. Seems to be the same magic.
And it's not clear if there are any children left.
Right. It's not.
So
it seems
if
like there
are still
should
children,
be, but
they might still be able to use whatever magic to
yes.
rebuild that segment of the wall that came down,
Yeah.
so that Jon can go defend it.
So
Yes.
yes.
5 minutes if you want it to be under 2 hours.
Okay. Well, I'll do the credits now.
You have a super chat from Jill Wright, which is an easy answer.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're definitely going to wrap it up now. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Super chat from Jill Wright. Is the dragon a white or White Walker? That is a tough one because of the blue eyes, the way it was raised.
It's a white.
Well, there's some conundrum there because it wasn't raised the same way as a lot of the other beings were. But I think it's a white. I think it's a white also. I don't think it's a white.
Yeah, in the show they presented it almost the same way as the baby. He touches its cheek and its eyes turn blue. Like it's now is a baby a white or White Walker? I don't know.
But all the whites have blue eyes, and I think they were just going for a dramatic effect by rather than just having him do his thing, and then it comes up. That could have been kind of cool. It could have raised his hands like Yoda, and like the X-wing rising out of the swamp.
Yeah,
could have been Viserion rising out of the swamp, and then they could have not had the silly chains. But anyway, I think it might be kind of a blurred line there, but I lean towards white because I don't think it has like intelligence. I don't think it's going to raise, like that's one of the things that seems to be characteristic of the White Walkers, is that they can raise other undead beings. Unless we see the dragon do that.
Is that it's neither a white or a White Walker dragon, it's just an ice dragon.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what you can call it.
That's fair. It's its own category maybe. Yeah, okay. All right, well let's I got to get to the credits so we can get this done. Thanks, everybody, for coming again. Thanks for all your super chats and questions and likes and feedback.
Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Dancing Sean. I almost have 1,000 followers. Hoping to get there soon.
That's right. We can do some sort
I
of...
shall dance at 1,000 followers.
That's right.
Meanwhile, I hit 3K, Sean.
Oh, nice.
Well, where's your dance?
You
need 3 dances. Shay is dancing off camera.
You should see her going off over there.
So beautiful.
Shout out to Jinx, also in our live audience.
Live audience of 1.
That's right, a live audience of 1. Cool. Okay, well, thanks to Michael Klarfeld for the video intro. Thanks to Jesse Kowal, Joey Townsend for the intro and outro music. And thanks to everyone else. Thanks to our patrons. Thanks to Lord Mark of House Joseph, the Snow in Winterfell, rider of Mazalacartho, the white dragon with green scales, horns, wings, and talons. Thanks to Jinx of House Lear, in person, green queen of the Rainwood, rumored daughter of a woods witch, rider of Erogenia, a sylphic albino dragon with the amethyst eyes and an opalescent wings. And by the way, when she asked what car I was in when I went to pick her up last night from the airport, I said I was in a sylphic albino Altima with amethyst eyes and an opalescent license plate or something like that. Yeah. The mysterious BR is Hand to the King. The Smiling Wolf is Lord Stephen Stark of the Broken Tower, soldier, scholar, philosopher, diplomat, a hand of Queen Ashea, who is known as the best, accurately. Lord Jim the Fortuitous of Wars and Politics of Ice and Fire blog is Warden of the West. Lord George Stormsville the Cunning is Lord of the Chiliad and Warden of the East. Cabeth the Unfrozen is Lord of the Bricks and Castle Crimson Light, Defender of the Old Gods and Warden of the North. Lady Kelly McMath of Covington is Lady of the Villa Hills and Crescent Springs, Warden of the South. We have Lord James Tuttle, King of the Stepstones and Narrow Sea, Commander of the Royal Fleet, consisting of the flagship, Narrow Fleet led by flagship Caraxes, Clagship, and the Bloodstone Fleet led by flagship Prince Daemon. Our King Beyond the Wall is Sidney Jesse, the Fallborn, Lord of Blue Spring and the Haunted Forest, wields a dagger of Dragonglass and the Valyrian steel blade Red Frost. Our small council includes Lord Daniel the Sneaky Russian, Master of Ships, Grand Maester of Via James, Lord Benjen of House Hornwood, Master of Laws, Lord Fabian Flowers, the Bastard of Greenshield, Master of Coin, Lord Johan of House Orcos, called Shadowhawk, Master of Whisperers. Lady Direliz is of Castle Naki, the Alpha Patron. Lord Dan of the Red Mountains and Castle Great Bell is Breaker of the Second Stone. Lord Skip of the Veldt is Lord of Castle Ganges. Gregor the Toasty is Lord of the Breadfort and recent trivia champion, apparently, news of which was posted in our Facebook group, which I highly recommend joining our Facebook group to participate in Season 8 discussions, along with many other great discussions. Shout out to our mods of our Facebook group as well. They do a great job of keeping the discussions going and keeping the environment friendly. Alicia Everlasting of the Green Blood is Lady of Desert Rose. Lord Ryan of Castle Stonegate is Guardian of the Rocky Mountain Pass. Lord Garin de Haviland is of Devil's Hand Keep. Ashlyn Winter is the Hawk's-Eye, Lady of Castle Skyfall. Lady Mikkel of Moonacre is leader of the Werewood Protectorate Alliance. The Lord of the Halls of Castle Hillcrest is wielder of the Valyrian steel machete Everglazed. Lord Alistair Whitaker is Lord of the Dawnhold. Lord Bemmy Snugglebunny is Guardian Ranger of the Hidden 100-Acre Werewood, dual wielder of Valyrian short swords Glorious Morning and Little White Wise, sharpshooter of the Werewood and Ironwood laminated longbow Todd Von Oben. Brian the Defender is Lord of the Spearfort and the Freelands, last scion of Clan McCulloch, strength and courage. The Bastard of the Wolfswood is first Forester of the Old Gods, sworn to House Ironwerewood. Listen for the silence. Connor the Dungeon Master is Lord of Catamount Keep and Guardian of the Smoky Mountain Pass. Lady Baelish is Dark Widow of Harrenhal. Nevessa the Twin-Hearted is suspected skin changer is holder of Castle Carahelm. Sir Valentin of House Degen is creator of the game of Predictions futures market for Game of Thrones. Lady Lyanna Kelly of Wolf Island is Protectress of the Steelhold. Casey Stark is of House Acres. Lady Kay of House Archer is Lady of Earthdog Hall, Huntress of the Wolfswood, and Guardian of Maddie Squirrelsbane, the Mighty Direweenie. Lady Raywin of House Dillsdane is the Star Spear. Peter Rivers is the Pale Dragon and heir to Bloodraven. Our King's Justice is Sir Troy the Steady, wielder of the Valyrian Steel Blade Fate. I know a few of you are waiting on nicknames. We've had a surge in new patronage in advance of Season 8, and I definitely will get your names made very soon. Check your Patreon inbox this weekend for those nicknames. Our Queen's High Council is led by, includes Bloody Ben Blackwood, Master of Whispers.
Go as slow as you want, because we're not going to make it.
Okay. Rhea Star Eyes, Lady of Waves and Mistress of Ships, Captain of the Iron Shadow Cat. In the shadows we bear our claws. Our Master of Coin is Lady Laura of House Brondos, one of the people waiting on a real nickname rather than just a placeholder like that. Grand Maester Elizabeth is middle daughter of Lyanna Mormont, first lady to forge both the silver and Valyrian steel link. Denys of Lazar is Embar Perses, which means fire on the sea. He is former head of the Cell Sail Company, the Fiery Shepherds, Master of Laws, and he has abandoned his position to become a Sea Lord, and he is putting Lady Rebea on notice. He intends to contest her position as Mistress of Ships, so watch out. There could be blood in the sea very soon. Our King's Guard is led by Lord Commander Miriam R., backed up by Sir Dolores D., longest tenured White Sword. Willa Crowsbane, Guardian of the White Tree, is First Lady of the Free Folk. Sir Dean the White is Knight of the Black Star. Sir Jord of House Pepsi is the Beverage Knight. Gregor Snow, called Snowbear, is a bastard of Winterfell. Our Queen's Guard includes Lord Captain Commander Hema Helmont, the Sellsword Sentinel, Alexander of House Atreides from the Seat of Dune. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Becca the Bard is Songbird of the North. Michonne the Melodious is Star of Old Town, motto Minds over Masters. Sir Rambo is Knight of House Gannon, First Blood. Sir Leon of House Walker is wielder of the twin Valyrian steel blades Fire and Ice and the Werewood Bow Rain. Amber the Adamant is the Knight of the Mist and Mother of Squids. Hey, Sean, why don't you read the Beard Guard?
Well, let's see. Hand of the Beard is Lady Suzanne Sinistral. Lord Commander George the Golden. Sir Joshua Oakhart, the White Oak. Lady Rita. I want to make a particular shout out to Lady Rita of the Coppermane, the Unbound.
You would.
Dance the Fervor. Sir Joff, Warden of the AC, wielder of Triad, the multifaceted beard of platinum, red and brown. Stay frosty. Sir Tim Corgal, Corgal,
either one.
Mad Boy of the Western Desert. Queen Helena von Landstein, partying like it's 1999 since 1980-something. A kingdom for a drink.
How you doing, Helen? And then last but not least, we have our History of Westeros and Night's Watch, led by Lord Commander Benjen Umber, the Silent Giant, wielder of the Valyrian Steel Greatsword Winter's Kiss, and backed up by First Builder Maegor Snow, a.k.a. Maegor the Cool, the Fire in the Snow. First Steward Sir Jurion of the Torrentine, called Pale Wind, and First Ranger Sir Source Delica of House Gramercy. You can get cool nicknames like this, including shout-outs, or just your name mentioned on our website. If you go to patreon.com/History of Westeros, you can read all about our benefits, which include getting access to scripted episodes early, getting access to voting on our upcoming scripted episodes and other fun stuff like that. On behalf of Sean and Ashea.
You have one more super chat.
Oh, we have another super chat. Okay, well, not quite done yet. Let's take care of that and then say adios.
I also want to say real quick, for those of you that are going, see you at Ice and Fire Con.
Yes.
By the way, that's coming up.
We'll see them on a stream before the Ice and Fire Con.
I suppose that's true.
Yes, we'll see y'all next week at episode 2, and then episode 3 we will be at Ice and Fire Con, so that's going to be fun. A super chat from Maura Lee for Ashea. All right,
got to get that one. Yeah.
That's all you then. You get to decide what you want to spend that on. Okay, everybody. Valar Rereadus. See y'all Monday after the premiere. Get hype, have fun, and we can't wait.